Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to the SLE. We have one final show match before we go into our draw show, which will be happening later today. The SLE split starts in a few days, 2 days actually, the 5th of September. I'm joined here by my co-caster, Sanix.
Yo.
Do you got any information about the teams today and what we can expect?
Well, yeah, obviously, as a caster does, they looked at their OPGGs a bit. Black Lotus, a team, I'm not pretty sure. I think they didn't have any show matches yet. So, it's going to be interesting to see them. The team varies in rank. They got all the way from diamond to silver. So, it's going to be interesting to watch them playing against Wacky Wraiths. Why? We've seen them play countless times already here in show matches. So, I'm looking forward to this. A new team, new faces in the league at all. So, yeah.
Yeah, and funny you mentioned the Black Lotus squad. It's such a wide variety of skill levels within their team. And a lot of SLE teams, they usually build rosters where people are usually on the same playing ground. So there is nothing about this situation I could relate to. Not because I'm not really that well versed in terms of how a team with such varying skill levels operates, but so I guess this will be the first chance for us to get a look at that. And speaking of good sheet, sorry, not good sheet. He's biased. Oh. Speaking of Wacky Wraiths, why we saw them compete against Good Chi in recently in a show match, and despite the 3-0 scoreline, they did show pretty nice signs of life, and I think. Players like Yushin and Robbery, who competed in the previous split, they did show that they are forces to be reckoned with, and to some extent, and more importantly, they do have a Diamond 1 ADC in the bot lane, and he's definitely someone to keep your eyes on.
Yeah, speaking about the Diamond 1 ADC, obviously, like just looking at his OPGG here, plays a lot of Misfortune, plays a lot of, these hyper carries, or, hyper carries. He plays everything. I don't even know what I'm saying. He plays Misfortune, plays Tristana, plays Sivir, all over the place. So he's definitely going to have something to pick. Obviously, I'm expecting a Misfortune ban, with that amount of games, with such a high win rate. That's getting banned. At least I would ban it. So, yeah, obviously probably the highlight of Wacky Wraiths. Why is that bot lane?
Yeah.
On the other side though, Black Lotus, looking at their team, I would definitely say that that's a team that plays more around the top side. The top laner being probably the highest rank on paper. Definitely has a champion pool like Olaf, Gnar, basically champions that can do a lot in team fights, want to be played around. So it's gonna be an interesting style, especially if both these teams want to play for the opposite sides on the map.
Yeah, I think as well, just to add to that, I think, the top lane matchup will be very interesting to see here because last show match, Case Maze, we all know him as a top Scion player, top 20 Scion in EU West. He got his Scion twice in the last show match, and he did not look very good on the Scion. He was up against Zench, a very mechanically gifted laner, very strong, oppressive in the lane phase. And we saw Maze struggle a lot, giving over loads of kills, and when it came to the team fights, Zench was just too strong and just provided way more than Maze did. This time, Maze, he's up against a player who doesn't equal the skill level of Zench, but as you said, he is their best player on paper. Their strongest player. And I'm looking at his OP.GG. He's got pedigree on Gnar. He's got games on Olaf. He's got these champions that can pressure a Scion player. And do we expect Maze to stick to that Scion playstyle, or do you reckon after that recent show match, he's thinking that he might need to switch it up a bit?
Well, you know how it is, right? I mean, when you play a champion for so long, you're kind of an OTP yourself.
Okay.
So, like when you have the ability to go a champ, even if it's not like the most favorable time, like let's say if you ban the counters to Sion, for example, like when Fiora to the come off the top, obviously looking at Missing Links OPGG here, he doesn't really have those champs in there. So I could definitely see Sion being picked up here as just a comfort pick if it's open. Because like what better than picking a comfort pick when you can?
Yeah, that's cool and all, Sanix, but apparently Mace is not playing today, so that point was you know what, we're just filling in because we are back. Not back. This is the first game. What am I doing? We're in draft, And first, quickly, Ivan ban off the board. Ivan, one of the strongest champions in the meta right now. What do we expect from a show match? Because I think a lot of the show matches there's been varying degrees of like for tryhard drafts. I think Gucci Yang drafted full Freljord once. Greasy
Yeah, but that was
Goblins.
game three. That was game
Yeah.
three.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I
Game,
guess.
game one is, I think game one is as true as they're gonna get. Then after game one, we can already maybe see some more
Yeah.
deviation into the fun
Yeah.
area, show match
So,
area. But
yeah. Basically, game one is like an official game, and then game two and
yeah,
three is like ah. Yeah.
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 But obviously on the board, we're seeing here Zerath ban as well. Obviously, Ushejin is a Zerath player, 73 games, high win rate on that champ, so not surprised. And the MF ban as well. So some of these champions that are OP, a lot of games on them on respective players. So not really surprised on the bans coming out. Obviously, the other side banning Nara, a champion we mentioned before, which Kazema's Missing Link is playing. So. Maokai as well, a champion. Missing Link does seem to play on top lane and is
Yeah.
a flex
Yeah.
into the jungle. So, uh,
Yeah, you can kind of see what Wacky Wraiths are going for. They've identified that the enemy top laner is their best player, and they're kind of targeting that champion pool. And I think I do like the Maokai ban, even though Maokai top probably not the most oppressive champion, but the ability to flex that is probably within the arsenal of Black Lotus. So I think it's definitely a reasonable ban as we get a Poppy first pick, which is answered by a Coggle.
yeah, answered by Kog'Maw Nico. Obviously, Poppy is the first pick. It usually is more into these counter matchups, but it leaves the flex open to the top lane. Usually, probably we will see it into the jungle, but not sure if I'm the biggest fan of the first pick here on the Poppy, especially because you can just pick Kog'Maw Nico. Big range, disengage on Nico. You can play with those pop blossoms, make a lot of good plays. And Kog'Maw is just a champion that if you can't get on top of him, he will wreak havoc. So Ashe into Kog'Maw, a matchup we've seen in a show match a few days ago. I played it.
Oh.
We, yeah. So I'm looking forward to see how this bot lane matchups go. But pairing Ashe with Lulu's a champion that's been popping up in the meta recently again. So just really really strong enchanter on the bot lane.
Yeah, I have to agree, and I think when it comes to picking enchanters, there is this narrative that it is very very difficult to play, especially at a higher competitive level. Arguably, some supports do argue that it is more difficult than engages. But I think when it comes to setting up the rest of the team, it does make like for example, if you're playing Ashe here and having a Lulu, it does make your life in terms of playing team fights a lot easier or being protected well. And you don't have to worry about lack of engage because you've got the Poppy, and I'm sure they'll be drafting something similar in top lane, just looking at its champion pool. So we're going into the second rotation of bans, and at the moment, Wacky Wraiths Y drafts looks very strong in terms of what's good in the meta. They've got the Nico, they've got an Enchanter with Kog'Maw in the bot lane, and I think draft-wise, I think the first phase of the draft, Wacky Wraiths Y, looking really really strong. But I think if you're Black Lotus right now, there's clearly some setup. A lot of setup has been drafted, and I think you definitely need to round this up with a very high damage mid laner. And I know this guy plays Akali, and it's like Akali is one of those champs right now that just looks completely unplayable against these champions. So I'm expecting something that can provide a lot more DPS and specifically in team fights.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, as you're saying, a lot of setup, right? We got Ashe ult, we got the Poppy engage, but you also have just Milio knocking people away, Nico pop blossoming them up in the air and knocking them down. So how are you realistically gonna get on top of the Kog'Maw? You want something like an Akali, which is, as you said, not the best into these champions, but something that can get a flank off, get onto this backline of Wacky Wraiths, is already gonna do much work for
Yeah,
Black Lotus here.
yeah, yeah.
As
I have
Akali
to.
gets banned out.
Akali is banned, so yeah, Wacky Wraiths Y. I don't know if they're listening to the cast, but that's cheating. No, I'm joking. But yeah, no, that's a really good point, and that kind of reminds me though of the Wacky Wraiths playstyle. They showed in their last show match that it is usually around one carry. It's like in game 3, Yusjin was fed and his positioning was great. He was standing in front of the carries. They have great fighting lines as a squad. And then in game 2 and 1, it was Butner who was putting out a lot of the damage. But I think if you are efficient as a team and you can materialize, we saw Gucci Yin, top laner Zench. He found 2 flanks, which were genuinely game winning. And if you're Black Lotus here, you want to make sure that you draft something that can find these flanks, as you said. Obviously, Akali is off the board, but the top lane is still available to pick. And I mean, maybe it is a similar story that we find either a Cassante or a Aatrox who can get onto the enemy backline, find a TP flank, find Butner, because of the way the Wacky Wraiths Y squad liked to team fight, the best way to play against that is to find a creative flank and punishing their ADC.
But looking at the Olaf hover here, it doesn't have a flank, but he can press his ultimate and just run in, follow the Assault, follow the line and just run in. No one's gonna stop him.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the Wacky Wraiths comp, they don't have a lot of CC, they don't have too much zone control. All they got is that Trundle pillar and the root. But Nefiri pick here, a champion that's I don't think we've seen in show matches yet. A champion that gets played a lot in top lane, especially in solo queue. It's a lane menace. Does so much in lane, so much pressure, and has wave clear and has the ability to roam. So if you pair it with the Nico CC on mid and Trundle pillars, you can make a lot of things happen. But we're gonna see the Camille teasing us here with the Nefiri pick. Got me excited for a second.
We do.
I was gonna start barking.
I know. I was like, we do we do see the Camille instead of the Nefiri. The Nefiri would have been exciting, but obviously I think, I was hyped as well, but then I kind of looked at the team comp and I was like, well, don't know if Nefiri makes any sense here at all. But yeah, it is instead of the Camille. One thing that hasn't been touched on is this Trundle pick that's been picked on R4. I could be wrong, but I think there's just a lack of tanks, and the Trundle doesn't really make much sense to me because the Wacky Wraiths Y squad, you've got really good setup with Nico and Kog'Maw, but Nico can be primary engaged, but it's nice to have something to follow up. Trundle traditionally doesn't have any engaged tools at all. He's kind of just, he's basically an auto attack bruiser with slows and he speeds himself up. But on that, he doesn't have like a hard engage or a follow up engage. Nothing like the Jarvan, nothing like Jarvan's banned, but I'm just giving examples, right? Nothing like the Jarvan, nothing like, like a Poppy, for example, can have follow up engage. So I think the Trundle there doesn't quite make sense in that regard, but we'll have to see how that gets operated. Because, for example, like Trundle's best games are up against champions like Ornn or champions like who's a tank. Basically, any tank,
Ornn, Sion, Seju, Poppy, all of these champions that can build up a lot of resistances. Trundle just walks up to them, presses his R key, the beloved key of a lot of champions.
Yeah.
And just takes it all and just chomps them.
Exactly.
Where are they? Where are those resistances,
Yeah. And the only issue I have here is that there's only a Poppy and it's like Poppy jungle, right? So how much resistances is this Poppy realistically going to build? Like I've seen Poppy junglers go Divine Sunderer a lot. So yeah, that's where I see a bit of weakness with this Trundle pick, but of course we'll have to wait and see. I'm sure they have something planned.
The thing with this Trundle pick, if you look at it in a 1v1 environment, let's say you're just a jungle, you're looking for these jungle skirmishes as a jungler looking to invade, do some fighting, to steal a camp. Trundle into Poppy does really well in these scenarios. He's a champion that loses very few 1v1 matchups in the jungle.
Yeah.
He can fight, he can skirmish, so he's really good at that. But then you look at the mid laner, you have a Nico mid. Yeah, has some setup. She doesn't really want to skirmish. She wants to get that level 6, look for those bigger fights. So the Trundle feels kind of mismatched with what Nico wants to do and overall. But what Trundle is pretty good here is he has the pillar. He has the ability to just make some distance between Kog'Maw and the rest of the Black Lotus team. Because what Wacky Wraiths Y is lacking, in my opinion, is a bit of peel for the Kog'Maw. They have the Milio Shield and the cleanse from the ult and Nico Snare and Pop Blossom and all of that. But you have Asher on the other side. You have a Poppy. You have Olaf who can just run in at you, and you have a Syndra who does loads of damage, especially once she gets her splinters. So there's a lot of damage on the side of Black Lotus and a lot of follow up. Well, on the other side on Wacky Wraiths, you have a Kog'Maw who will be relying a lot on proper positioning and the peel he can get. And we can see the Camille as well, last pick. Sure, she can jump on Ashe and all of that, but Camille is a champion that struggles a lot into Poppy because her engage gets cancelled out. So
Yeah.
I am expecting Camille to be sitting on top of Kog'Maw this game.
Yeah, and I think, we kind of, it was a really good point that Nico is kind of the main setup here for the Wacky Wraiths. And if you look at the Black Lotus comp, they have a lot of tools to prevent this Nico from doing what Nico does best. I think Syndra is one of the best champions into Nico. Gragas is another example, because when Nico's charging that ultimate, you do have a small period in which the animation is going through, and that you can push this Nico away to make sure that ultimate doesn't land on key targets. And champions like Syndra, champions like Gragas, they have pushback abilities. Syndra can throw this Nico away with a scatter a week, and it doesn't land onto your Ashe, for example. So, or if Nico wants to do a protobelt engage, you have the Poppy to stop that. And as you mentioned, the Poppy will stop the Camille as well. So I think there are good tools. I like what Black Lotus have done here in terms of things to pick to stop this Nico from landing those big ultimates in a fight. And I think, in a way, this is a good chance to see how creative Yushin can get with these Nico engages, because I think that definitely has been the theme with this champion of, like, can you put in an Oscar-worthy performance as a minion and find that random engage?
I mean,
so
the question is on the other side. Can Black Lotus count the minions?
Yeah,
That is
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. You gotta count the minions. Like, it's like, Wacky Race. It's like a drama school check, and then Black Lotus is like, did you pay attention in mathematics? But I think I'm very excited for the draft, and just looking at the two squads, is who would you favor, or like, is there a particular team comp that you would prefer to play in?
I would say I'd prefer to play in Wacky Race, mostly because I'm not a big fan of Ashe as a champion. I think Ashe is such a good champion in solo queue, but I feel like in this team environment, on ADC as the meta is, you want a lot of damage. And Ashe she goes Kraken and then she goes Triforce. Like, Kraken is a damage item, but Triforce, it kind of falls off. Like, it still has a lot of damage, but not as much as, let's say, a Kog'Maw with Blade and Ginsos and all of that. So I think if Wacky Rates comp here gets played out as it should be, like, to perfection, I think I would 100% of the time choose Wacky Rates here.
Yeah, I have to agree, because I mean, similarly, Nico is pretty fun. So,
yeah,
but I mean,
I mean, I'd rather play Kog. You'd rather play Nico. Is this what we're making our decisions on?
Yeah, obviously. We're not here to provide actual analysis. We're biased as hell. Let's go, good sheet. No, I'm joking. Guys, before we get into the game, I'd like to throw a shout out to Yomi's Yogurts. This is one of my favorite yogurt companies. I have at least 3 cups a day. What's your favorite Yomi yogurt flavor?
Personally, I really like the mix of strawberry and banana. It's a pretty new one. It's a pretty new one. It came out, I think, a week or 2 ago. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that one. What about you?
I think, you know me, I'm a sucker for the original. I mean, you've seen me loads of times around the studio with a raspberry flavored Yomi yogurt.
A classic.
Yeah, it's such a classic, and you just can't go wrong with that. I don't know what else you can do. I mean,
yeah, definitely close second for me.
Yeah, close second. I mean, I do like their flex pick line. As you mentioned, the banana, whatever you mentioned.
Strawberry. How did you forget?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. I like that pick. Strawberry 2 days ago, raspberry today. No, essentially, I'm just saying I'm a fan of the classics, the the original flavors. I mean, also, also I got like, okay, hold on. I need to ask you a serious question, all right?
Yeah.
Because we are partnered with Flace Fettuccinis and Savages, right? And when it comes to a meal to watch the SLE, Are we going with flakes fettuccinis or sandwiches sandwiches?
I mean, depends how big the sandwich is, you know? Like, is it a small or is it like a foot long from Subway at that point, you know? Not sponsored,
Well,
but like sandwich.
so
Yeah.
I know ever since Mick has won the SLE twice, he's bumped up the prices on the large sandwich. So there is that. But
Yeah,
I
but
don't
the
know.
quality is there to back up
Yeah,
the price, you
exactly,
know?
exactly. He got more budget, right, for the meats.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, it's a tough decision to make, to be honest.
Oh,
Yeah,
we're heading into game. Well, I have my Savage sandwich here ready with me for this game.
yeah.
Um,
Oh, I went with flakes fettuccinis today.
well, you're gonna have to tell me. I haven't tried that one yet.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
I mean, right now we're seeing, obviously, game just started. We're seeing a classic 5-point from both teams. You know, this is what we would expect. No team has that invade potential. Maybe we would see a play for ward for vision, but both teams opting for this 5-point, classic standard way to approach. Nothing risky. Get some info. You know, dance with your enemies, chill it out on the mid lane. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Classic
yeah.
5 point. Not too much to see here. I mean, I can imagine that as the series progresses, we might see some spicy invades, and we saw that in the previous show matches. So, and yeah, as we mentioned, it is not K's Mace playing. It is a fill-in, and it is Karuga today. I do recognize the name. Don't know where from, but yeah, that's pretty cool. He's up against Missing Link, the star of the show when it comes to talking about the Black Lotus squad. He is the highest ranked player. So he's up against a sub, a really good chance for Missing Link to show his stuff. And I think, obviously I'm not saying subs are supposed to be weak, but, they obviously don't have as much practice, as much built-in synergy with their team. So big opportunity for Missing Link to show the whole SLE that he is capable.
Yeah, and obviously in the bot lane we're already seeing some trades here. It's Kog'Maw starting W level 1, gets the outrange potential, and just getting some damage down, especially with the Milio, a champion who can just start up a campfire, make you all nice and cozy, give you extra attack range, and he's just gonna melt through this bot lane in a few levels. So it will be kind of scary, but Ash Lulu getting level 2 here, going for the pokes.
Yeah, going in for the trade. As we see, Blue is putting out so much damage onto Bootner. And what I like there is Bootner is such a hyped up ADC coming into this, and Blue playing with the confidence with his...
And this is what you like to see from Ash. It's a champion that has so much lane prio, so much damage in lane just from that raw W poke and just Q. It does so much DPS in these early levels that Kog'Maw does kind of struggle a bit with it. If you don't have like a tanky engaging support with it, if you have an enchanter, you will lose that prio in the early levels.
Definitely, it's very, very true. And I think, as you mentioned, they hit level 2 first, and then they knew that was their go button for the trade. Very, very commendable, I guess, insight or foresight from a bot lane, so that's nice to see. As there is a gank from Robbery experienced SLE jungler. He is chomping down on Missing Link. Missing Link doesn't have the flash, so can only rely on the ghost to get away, and the Q2 from Karuga secures himself first blood.
And now look at the bright side for the Solaf. He dies, burns his ghost, but his wave does crash, so it will at least bounce back to him. So he doesn't lose that much from it. Still has a tiny bit of a CS lead. Camille level 3 is not, or level 4 at this point, not that easy to CS on their tower. You need to be really just proficient at it, have a lot of practice on it. So, Camille's gonna get the XP. But overall, not that big of a loss for Missing Link here. Obviously does die and burn the ghost. But that is kind of it here, as we see Poppy contesting the Scuttle Crab here.
Contesting the Scuttle Crab, and it is up against Yusjin, as Robbery did get the top crab and recall. Yusjin brought down to low HP. He's going to have some support from his bot lane, and I really like what this Wacky Wraiths team is doing here to support their jungler. And I want to add, we played against him last split, and we've seen him in a few show matches. Robbery definitely is the key to this squad at the start of the early game, as there is a trade onto Fabian, as Blue is going to be left to his own devices, does have the flash, and is going to use that. The pillar just thrown out to cause some pressure, but It is just going to be a summoner spell trade as Ghost was popped by Bootner, but more pressure again. And as I said, Robbery definitely makes this roster tick.
Yeah, Robbery, his team saves the scuttle from him, makes sure that he gets it, and he doesn't go to the scuttle. He says, you know what, guys, I appreciate you, and he goes down there to gank the bot lane. Now this is what peak jungling looks like. This is what I want my jungler to do.
that felt like passive aggressive play. Wow, what amazing jungling we saw. Wow, amazing. That's why he's such a good jungler. No, I'm joking. But genuinely, I like low key, jokes aside, I think that is really nice team play, and you can see that's one of those things where you can tell the junglers connect really well with the laners. The laners are saying, we will get your camp. Now, supply us with some support, and then Robbery is like, say less, and I'm going to stop myself there because Karuga is under pressure. Similar story, doesn't have the flash, and the W interrupts the hook shot as Karuga is going to fall. Really well played by Coney, because a lot of poppies would use the W for move speed to get onto the gank, but he saves it to interrupt the dash.
Yeah, as you said, really well played. Knowing Camille is really the only champion with the movement ability in Wacky Wraiths. And this is what I said before. Poppy is a champion that really kind of, you know, nullifies Camille and what she wants to do. So not playing Flash on Camille here, both top laners without Flash, it is really risky for Camille because it makes her vulnerable to ganks like these. Obviously not having a ward, not having vision, stepping up a bit like that, it just means you're really vulnerable. You have a slow from Olaf, a lot of damage that can just follow up. Poppy has so much base damage as well. So we're just seeing this top lane be played around. You know, I mentioned that Wacky Wraiths might be playing around bot side and Black Lotus might be playing around top side, but both these teams are playing around.
Yeah, both teams playing around top lane, and we see a bit of a duel. We mentioned Trundle does have the edge when it comes to a 1v1, but wasn't winning it out, and Yujin comes in to support their jungler. And what we're seeing from the Wacky Wraith squad in this game is the jungle and the laners playing really well together as there's more fighting going on. Blue brought down to 1 health as Amari flashes forward with an auto attack to finish off the kill. Fabian is left to run, no summoners except for the exhaust, and it's gonna be a double kill for Lionel Messi. I mean Milio.
Ankara Messi. You know, we saw that Flash Pablo someone mid already. We saw this player on bot, and the Wacky Race is just starting to snowball these leads. You know, gets the gank bot, burns the summoner spells a few minutes ago, and just repeat ganks again. Collects the dragon, gets everything. We see Herald coming up, and look at the vision already established on top side. We have a deep vision ward around blue. I think we're gonna see another ward be placed down. Milio Kog'Maw moving mid here. We have Nico moving bot, so they're already rotating for this Herald here. And I don't think Black Lotus has anything to respond with. Ashe Lulu still on bot side, so it will be really hard for Black Lotus to contest this Herald.
Yeah, very difficult indeed, and I think already losing out the dragon, and you can see Wacky Wraiths there. They've moved their bot lane into mid lane as Coney and Robbery are dueling it out in the mid lane. Robbery always I think one thing I'm seeing is Robbery is always getting the support of his laners, and the Black Lotus laners are just nowhere to be seen when it comes to helping Coney.
Yeah, obviously in a lane with Ashe Lulu, when you fall behind, as we see a Camille engage onto the missing link here.
Yeah, missing link getting jumped on, and I think that is going to be a dead Olaf. So 1 kill already, and that is basically the Herald secured for Wacky Wraiths.
Yeah, Herald secured for Wacky Wraiths. Nico didn't even have to move, didn't have to shove lane. She's just chilling down on bot side. We saw the Lulu move up here. Ashe moved up as well, but everyone's just backing off. This is Herald for Wacky Wraiths, and honestly, at this point, I would really want this Herald to be used around top side. You know, yeah, Camille already got a lot of resources in her, so you know, say this is it. We want our Camille to be even bigger. Let's give her the Herald. So. Yeah,
exactly. And you know, just taking a look at the farm numbers, I think one thing to point out is that it's basically even in terms of 1 versus 1s. But I think the biggest difference is how the Wacky Wraith squad is playing alongside Robbery. They're just making everything happen, and they're making so many early game plays that is where the difference in the teams is.
Well, yeah, obviously,
Yeah, as I say that, there is an enchanted crystal arrow landing from the bot lane onto Yuzjin. Yuzjin doesn't have the flash and nothing left to save himself, as that's going to be the kill for the Syndra.
That was really well played from Black Lotus there. Poppy knocking her out of the blast zone and then following up with the Lulu Polymorph, so Nico, even when she steps up onto the blast zone, can't pop it. Just really, really well synergized from Black Lotus there and getting a really needed pick onto Wacky Wraiths.
Yeah, I think it's really, really nice Ash ultimate. I think we talk about setup. We talked about setup a lot in the draft. I think if you have a player, apparently Blue is one of them, you have a player like that who can land those cross-map Ash arrows, and that's more than enough setup for your team to pick up kills.
Yeah, and I mean, as you say, we're talking about setup, and you know, there's just so much CC, like Ash Arrow, Poppy stun, Syndra stun, Polymorph. You're just gonna be sitting there. Like, if I get stunned like that, I would just be, man, why am I sitting here? I just want a tan, you know? So yeah, Olaf shoving in a wave top here, not really taking the place, taking the tempo reset. We might be seeing him move down towards this dragon, no TP on him. So this might be a dragon fight coming up now.
Yeah, it could be a dragon fight. I think this is going to be an essential one for Black Lotus to contest, because they definitely don't want to give it. And the sign of that is with this Syndra approaching into the bot lane already, and there potentially is a play. So we have 4 members set up for this bot lane fight. It seems like a mirror. The read here is good, as Yuzjin already posturing to leave the area. The wave is set up in a way that Wacky Wraiths know that the Black Lotus bot lane need to push this in, so they're just waiting for them to step up. There is a vision on the Wacky Wraiths players, and there goes Yuzjin landing a 2-man ultimate. Blue is gonna be brought down to 1 health, but here comes the Black Lotus support as there's a shutdown onto Messi, and the Syndra damage is coming through. The kill goes over to the Poppy, but that is going to be the end of the fight so far. Only Emilio dropping down, but nonetheless a kill going over to the Black Lotus members. And a fight setup that was looking so good for Wacky Wraiths. They were waiting for the bot lane to push in. Blue survived on just a slither of health. And there comes the Black Lotus squad to punish the mistake.
Sedging had a really nice Flash Pop Blossom, as we might see Kog'Maw here, but they're out of position, might be getting caught out, and just will pay the price, will die most likely, or not.
Yeah. Yes. And there's another kill onto the Black Lotus bot laner, as here comes Robbery. Clobbering onto the members of Black Lotus. The Poppy is the first one to fall, but the Scouts of the Week is going to buy some time for Gloomiux to get away, and a lot of action happening in the bot lane that shows the value that both teams are putting on for this dragon.
Black Lotus falling behind in the early game, but responding to these plays like they're equal on gold or even ahead. Just really, really well responded. Really good synergy from the team. Just knowing what Wacky Wraiths is trying to do, being there on time and countering the plays. Blue getting out alive, being able to move down for the dragon as well. I mean, move back to lane, reset. Not actually losing that much, only lost the Poppy. So overall, Black Lotus definitely coming out on top. Dragon hasn't dropped yet. I think we will see Wacky Wraiths starting it up here anytime, as Herald was dropped on bot side. So I'm interested to see how the second fight will go, as we don't have the flash on Usajin. So the Flash Pop Blossom engage, the primarily playmaking tool on Wacky Wraiths Y, is not there for this fight.
Yeah, not there for this fight, and I mean, it's like this. Sorry?
Crystal Arrow just flew by.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's on cooldown now as well.
Yeah, that's going to be a key ultimate to be down for this dragon fight, and it's kind of like, how do you celebrate Easter, you know?
Well, obviously with some nice eggs, ham, you know, just with your family usually, because Black Lotus is definitely playing like a family here, just so well coordinated.
Very well coordinated indeed, as there's a chase onto Yuzjin. We'll use the W to get away. The melee ultimate is forced. The Scouts of the Week was used, but once you use that Scouts of the Week, you are left to your own devices, as Syndra gets taken down first. Here comes Karuga with the Hextech ultimatum, and the Blast Cone pushes Blue into the entire Wacky Wraith squad. And that is a betrayal of the highest order, as the Ash goes down, and that means the dragon secured for Wacky Wraiths. She almost invested in Apple right before it got big, but in the end, it will be the dragon for Wacky Wraiths.
I mean, the smoke was high in the sky there. Everyone saw the dragon plague happening. Obviously, Glumix getting that scatter of the week, but just how much the tide changes with Milio ult there. Messi cleansing the stun away and just changing how the fight goes in favor of Wacky Wraiths.
Yeah, definitely. And this is such a back and forth game. We've seen such good plays coming from both teams, and I will say it definitely does seem like Wacky Wraiths has more practice. They're a much more well-versed squad. Having played together, you know, they played last split, having played together for a while now, and you can see that coming through. But yeah, really, really lovely stuff here. And as you said, Mr. White went to the store last night as Wacky Wraiths are playing very well in this game for the gold lead that they carry.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you know, talking about Mr. White, obviously everyone watched Breaking Bad, such a big show, and Wacky Wraiths, they went shopping because they got mythics on almost all champions. Obviously, Kog'Maw's the champion that doesn't like to go mythic first. Blade is too good, but yeah, items completed on every role, even on Messi on support. So yeah, Milio being that far ahead, as we see Yusejin out of position here on top lane.
Yeah, there is a fight breaking out, but that might just be it. No summoners being blown as Yusejin is not going to land BE, but Fabian is going to fall down, and it's going to be sorry, it's very actually I can't see anyone's name. It's going to be Bootner picking up the kill. And obviously with that pick, the Herald will be secured. A little bit of misposition from Fabian.
Yeah, so, you know, we have these skirmishes happening all over the map. And what tends to happen is Black Lotus makes what looks like to be a good play. You know, they seem to get a pick, seem to get some damage off his Milio. Kog'Maw just melting the Zash.
Yeah, Milio Kog'Maw throwing out the damage, and you know a lot about Milio Kog'Maw. When you get those spikes and when you can deal this amount of damage, you can play with the confidence of the world. But speaking of, there's actually solo kills on both sides of the map. Coming from the Black Lotus players as Yusejin dies in top and Karuga dies in bot lane.
What just happened? We saw Kog'Maw almost spit Ash to death. We seen mid being broken out open with Herald, but solo kills on the side lanes.
Oh, and as they stun against the wall robbery, it's shot down, and it seems like there's a bit of a trend happening in this game with people getting caught out where they shouldn't be.
Yeah, it's just, you know, both these teams make a good play and then they overstay, then they get punished, and then the other team does the same. So it's just this back and forth of good play into overstay into good play from the other team, and it's a constant cycle. But Wacky Wraiths is still on top, has 2 dragons, got both heralds this game, so, and has a 1k gold lead. You know, not that much, but it's there. The gold lead is there.
Yeah, gold lead is there indeed, and I think what an exciting game. And when it comes to show matches, obviously it's nice to see teams perform clean, teams show their stuff. But I love games like these where it's back and forth, people are fighting, people are punishing mistakes where they can, and people are looking for advantages. And I think when it comes to show matches, we've seen a lot of, you know, admittedly stomps games and a lot of one-sided series, but this time around I can expect a series that is very, very close.
Yeah, and I am looking forward to this next dragon coming up in 1 minute. We already see Wacky Wraiths setting up this vision bot side, clearing out the vision from the side of Black Lotus. So this will be an explosive fight, and the thing with this dragon fight, 1 minute 30 before Baron spawn as well. So this can definitely snowball into Baron. Like, whoever wins this fight, I think Black Lotus will be looking to contest. They don't want Wacky Wraiths to be on soul point, as we see a bit of a trade between Robbery and Oxyconey.
Yeah, bit of a trade.
Yeah.
Oxyconey, bit of a trade indeed, and you can see that these teams, they prioritize the objective so much, and like whenever there's an objective, there are big contests, big fights for these key objectives, as it looks like Missing Link will be pushing out the top lane, and wards being cleared out by Black Lotus. it potentially looks like Wacky Wraiths will be trying to enter this pit from the bot side, with Yushin entering, forcing the flash already from Fabian, and a flashless Lulu is a key target, as you can see. Robbery identifying that, charging onto Fabian. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow is going to buy his support some space, as Yushin flashes forward with a 2-man ultimate, going to land some damage, but that's just about it. The bot lane of Black Lotus will survive with their life, but here comes the Poppy with the dash in and over the wall. Karuga in a 1 versus 3. What can he do? Finds so much time, but the Black Lotus squad. Here comes the Syndra double kill already, and Karuga doesn't win the 1 versus 3 triple kill for Gloomix, as the Wacky Wraiths Y squad falter and they fall down, meaning the Drake will go over to the Black Lotus.
I was very well played from Black Lotus, waiting out, noticing Lulu has no flash, recognizing that Lulu is getting engaged on from the trundle. You know, peeling for that Lulu. Usejin maybe overstepping a bit, you know, ulting, flash ulting Blue and Fabian in the backline, which just meant that obviously you don't have the Pop Blossom to peel for Kog'Maw, you know, the one champion that does so much DPS in your team. And this is what we mentioned before, Kog'Maw is a champion that doesn't have that much peel for himself. Doesn't have that much peel from this team comp either, you know, you have Milio, but that's kind of it. We had Camille and Nico on the other side of the wall, so Kog'Maw was kind of left to himself.
Yeah, Kog'Maw was left to himself then. As you said, you know, one member we actually haven't touched on very much in this game is Gloomix on this Syndra, and in that team fight there just landed everything onto the back line of Wacky Wraiths. And you know, you're an ADC yourself, you know what it's like when that Syndra has access to you. But all it takes is one combo and you are gone, regardless of how much peel you have. And yeah, big performance coming out of the Black Lotus mid laner already. These team fights are looking very, very good. He's silently been scaling, silently been farming up. He's hit the Luden's Echo. Oh, Luden's Tempest, I think it's called. Luden's Tempest plus the Shadow Flame, and that is a Syndra power spike with the Splinters. And yeah, Butner gonna have to keep his eyes on Gloomix for the rest of this game, as that is definitely now a threat.
Actually, I think Syndra, you're a mid lane player, right? So around 21 minutes, how many Splinters do you think Syndra has at this point?
Good question. So I think you will potentially, depending on how much you've traded in lane, you have gone for the first strike. So in terms of intricate trading patterns, you will look to poke and look to QE whenever that is up. So you could be looking at around 200, 250 Splinters right now, and that is a massive power spike. You're going to be doing loads and loads of damage. 5, 1, and 2, 8 stacks from the Darkseer, as there's another fight breaking out in the jungle, and you can see the aggression. Enchanted Crystal Arrow lands onto a key target. Lionel Messi, what can he do? Uses the cleanse to get away. As look at Butner pumping out the damage, and this is the value of the Kog'Maw, taking the Poppy down to 1 auto attack, as the fruit is going to keep him alive as he's on the run. Shutdown going over to Robbery. Here comes Karuga, being pushed away by the Scats of the Week, and that is the value of the E against these champions, as we mentioned in the draft. But Baron started off. There is no vision from Black Lotus as they attend to a mid-wave without knowing. Here comes the Ashe E. So that is the notification that the enemy team is on the Baron. There is going to be an approach. Missing Link taking the blast going over. Yeah, Missing Link goes in, and he doesn't get much done as the 2 solo laners of Black Lotus are taken down, and it's onto the bot lane next. Here comes, I can't see who it is. Here comes the Trundle as the Ashe is putting out as much damage as he can. The Lulu is forced to flash away, and Blue, you are left on your own, taking the turret shot as he is going to run away. Fabian is the only survivor for Black Lotus as the kills go over to Wacky Wraiths as well as the Baron, and that is a massive moment in the game.
Yeah, Oxyconey getting caught out before Baron just means that Wacky Wraiths can just do Baron without, you know, any contest really. So you can't stop laughing, guys. Oxyconey might be getting caught out again here. Knocks them all away by falling on face.
Yeah, Oxyconey is going to fall, and that means a potential. Dragon is spawning. No, Dragon's not spawning, so Dragon not spawning, so that kill won't change too much in the game because he will just spawn within 25 seconds. But Yeah, big swing of the game state in that fight, and Wacky and Wraiths gonna be able to pull away from that. And I think Black Lotus, you saw your jungle fall. He was the one to die, and that's a key component when it comes to the ejective fights. And I think when we looked at the last team fight that Black Lotus won, you can't help but feel that this one was slightly careless in terms of missing Link kind of just went in when his team weren't really ready. And it was a bit of a shame because you definitely want to play around this 5-kill Syndra.
Yeah, obviously, I think a lot of teams do this. It's not just the Black Lotus thing. It's just a lot of teams in this season. We might see a fight here.
Yeah, we might see a fight. Yeah, just training.
But we might not. But a lot of teams, what they do is they lose a jungler, but Baron is getting taken. Yes, Baron is a lot of gold income for the other team, but...
Okay. Enchanted Crystal Arrow scores a gold, so not going to cause any engages there. As, Baron minions being pushed in, we could see a very classic setup of a 1-4. Camille having TP, so can respond to anything if needed, but they're pushing in mid-wave and attending to the dragon here.
Yeah, Syndra using Scatter the Wick there on mid lane on the minions. I don't know if I'm a big fan of that. It is like a disengage ability and a potential catch ability. So if someone walks up close, they will just die and pay the price for it. As we see Wacky Wraiths pick up pretty much free dragon here. They've got push on all 3 waves. Actually, never mind, all 2 waves. Actually, only mid. My bad. It's a bit hard to see. But we got the Baron minions. So Baron minions, yeah. They're Baroning.
They are Baroning indeed. Yeah, as you said, I think Baron was kind of used there to make sure that the dragon was taken. So they are now on soul point. Wacky Wraiths in a fantastic spot to carry this game and see this game through. Just a few things to talk about here is, as you mentioned, Gloomix, he is the key member now for Black Lotus. This is going to be a massive spotlight on him to see if he can carry this game and get Black Lotus back into this fight, because at the end of the day, we can see the score lines. It speaks for itself. No one else is on the same level of how strong they are as Gloomix, and it's all on him. And that's a lot of pressure, but as you said, you can't be throwing out key abilities like your Scatter the Weak like that, because obviously that does open you up for engages. And we look on the other side, look how strong this Kog'Maw is, paired up with the Melio and the support of Robbery. Wacky Wraiths are in a fantastic spot to close this game out, but if they falter, if they overstep, that could be a huge gold swing over to the members of Black Lotus, and you cannot underestimate the damage of this Syndra.
Yeah,
speaking of, Yusjin finds a Pop Blossom onto Blue, as he is going to fall. The chase onto Fabian now begins. Robbery is not going to pursue any further, but once again, Yusjin finding a pick with the Nico.
That was phenomenal. Obviously, not a lot to be gained here. Baron's about to run out as well if it hasn't already. It has, my bad. But we get that kill, we get that tiny bit of gold, but is that really what you want?
And speaking of, Robbery has overstepped, and this is what I meant by you cannot underestimate the damage of the Syndra, as there goes the shutdown. Once again, Gloomix holding the fort for Black Lotus, as he is putting in a very strong performance, and everyone watching this game should pay attention to this play.
I mean, it just shows how strong Syndra on 400 Splinters is at this point.
Yeah, definitely. And what a broken champion. You know, personally, I play Syndra. I think she's pretty balanced, but of course, I could see the argument for her being broken. And yeah, as you said, look at the damage being pumped out. Gloomix, though, as we said, once that Scatter the Weak is down, you've got nothing left. Great stopwatch buying herself some time. Going to be able to get out, flashing away over the wall back to the safety of the team. And there we go. As you mentioned, you can't just blow the Scatter the Weak for fun, because that's the opening for Wacky Wraiths to jump onto.
And I mean, that opening is just basically the sky's cleared up, as now we can see the Baron is spawning in 30 seconds. So this might be another fight happening.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's how am I supposed to get that long sentence? Anyway,
You can.
I don't know, boss. Well, I'll find a way. Viewers, just you wait. I'm about to drop a banger in a bit. All right.
Robbery moving into the topside jungle though, on his own, not really having his team there. We still see Butner backing right now. Baron's up, so that's a bit of a delayed back. As Gloomix going around that bot side says, I have TP, I can TP to the fight. But do you really want to TP to the fight here? Don't you want to just be with your team, make sure to get that pick?
Yeah, I agree.
Really, where do you want your Syndra to be at this point?
Yeah, so I get why you are on the side lane, because you are wanting to push the waves. You do have the best wave clear, but it's like if Wacky Wraiths don't see the Syndra there is a channel time for the teleport, and you can see already, they're like, Syndra's bot lane. We have the confidence to step in. We won't get blown up by a 400 splinter Syndra. We have no fear. And instantly starting the Baron, and I'm not seeing much response actually from Black.
Oh, the Baron's almost gone.
Yeah, the Baron's almost gone. As the poppy is it comes to Crystal Arrow, doesn't land, melee range, but it's gonna be Robbery to fall. That's a key member down for an objective fight, as the Trundle is to be the first to fall. So now, Wacky Wraiths, what are you gonna do as Scatter
Blamix is
lands
also here
onto Amari, as Karuga gonna find a 1v1 onto the Syndra. This is that's not Syndra, sorry, I can't see. Yeah, as Fabian is going to be the first to fall for Black Lotus Blue, having to flash away from the engage. Karuga now on the run, as attention to him is there, but Yushin landing a 2-man Hot Blossom, and that's going to be the Black Lotus members on the run. There's the Syndra falling down, that's the key target dead, which means the Baron is opened up and Wacky Wraiths in the lead of this game.
And I mean, this is just like the last episode of Tom and Jerry, you know, Tom took a big breath and blew out the candles, because this might be it for Black Lotus here.
Oh my god,
we don't discriminate here. Let's change the narrative to Tom and Mary. And at the moment, Tom and Mary shared an umbrella, as Wacky Wraiths' game is being well protected under the scattered reign of Black Lotus. And I think right now, if you're Wacky Wraiths, we said before, Wacky Wraiths. Sorry, I can't see. As you said, Wacky Wraiths, that before this fight, they were in a fantastic position to close the cake out. But now they're in an even better position, and you know, Sanix, you're a very well experienced competitive player. Is there anything Black Lotus can do to bring themselves back into this game?
I mean, honestly, you know, you need to look at it. The chances. How can I put this? You know, like, I don't know. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
You really, the enchanted crystal arrow misses there.
Yeah,
Taruga's gonna get out alive. Missing Link is most likely going to die. So the Baron, everything's just against Black Lotus here.
Yeah, and missing Link, he slowly began to realize the error of his ways, as he is going to
Wait. You said she's dead?
On to Amari. Yushin also died on the backside, and maybe this is the angle. Gloomix's strength. This is a 4 versus 3 shot, potential little fight, but they're playing a little bit too careless, not playing around the cooldowns of the Syndra. Down goes Blue, and it's gonna be the start of Black Lotus. Gloomix gonna be chased down by Robbery. The double kill for the Camille. It was something meant to be given to a child, with its bright, colorful pictures and big, deliberate font. Something ill-suited to the girls of their age. 10 years old, practically teenagers, but it's Wacky Wraiths getting the victory of the game, and they are going to be taking game 1 of this series.
Yeah, and definitely Black Lotus, you know, playing the early game as well as they could have, responding, but you know, that mid to late game, there was some mistakes, and you know, honestly, I think they slowly began to realize the error of their ways, and I think it's game 2 is gonna definitely show another side of Black Lotus.
Yeah, game 2 definitely going to show, and we have to say, once again, there's a reason why this player is being hyped up and being talked about a lot. Butner on this Kog'Maw, you're a Kog'Maw enjoyer yourself. What a performance from him.
Yeah, definitely. Kog'Maw champion, you can just press W, press attack move, you don't even have to move. It just melts people down, especially once you get to 3-4 items. That's a champion that just, it's a machine, not even a champion. So very, very nice to see another Kog'Maw enjoyer. That's all I'm gonna say. I love the champ.
We do love it when there are Kog'Maw players, and I think as much as you did say you are basically a machine, You do, of course, have to be careful with positioning. You do, of course, have to ensure that you're pumping out as much damage as possible. And I guess my point is like there is value, and it does require a high-skilled player to operate and carry these games. And I think if you are Wacky Wraiths, you're definitely Wacky Weights. Sorry, you're definitely extremely happy with this game. You just came off a series where you were up against a top team like Gucci, and this time you're playing up against a team that are potentially the same skill level as you, another mid-tier team. And it's time to show what you've got. And in the early game, they were playing aggressive, playing around robbery, but there were a few missteps here and there that were allowing GloomiX to get into the game and get strong. But nonetheless, you played around your carries and you played around the strength of your squad and, more importantly, your team composition, and you were able to carry through the win.
Yeah, I don't even know what else to say. I was really enjoying the early game, especially how Black Lotus was responding to plays on the map.
Yeah.
You don't see that many teams respond. You see a lot of teams. What they do is like, okay, there's a play happening bot side. Let's do something else on the other side of the map. Black Lotus was like, no, let's throw all that in the bin. What we're gonna do is we're gonna fight exactly here. We're gonna wait for you to use your abilities. We're gonna wait for you to use your sums, and then we're gonna fight you. And that's it. That's what we're doing, and that's what they did, and I appreciate that.
Definitely. And I believe we are going to throw to a quick break. Are we? Is that a thing? Yeah, we're gonna throw to a quick break, so don't go anywhere because this show match is far from over. 1-0 to the Wacky Wraiths as Black Lotus will go into game 2 looking to even up the series. Don't go anywhere. And Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another game of this show match. It's Wacky Wraiths against Black Lotus. For those who have just joined the stream, Wacky Wraiths took game one, and Sanix, what a game that was. And before you start talking, I'm gonna grab myself my lovely takeaway box of Flay's fettuccine and let you talk.
Yeah, I hope you enjoy. Hope you enjoy those fettuccine. But yeah, as you said, a very fun match one between Black Lotus and Wacky Wraith. I sure enjoyed my Savage's sandwiches during it. Hopefully you're gonna enjoy your fettuccine during game two here.
Yeah.
As we've seen a lot of responses from Black Lotus game one. Something we talked about is how they responded to these plays. So what do you want to see game two? What do you want game two to be now?
I think Black Lotus, we kind of said on the draft on paper in terms of elo, their top laner is their star player, and I have to admit he was kind of missing in that game. I think I want to see him on something more engage. Like I want to see him on a champion that he can start fights and kind of play make with. Like, just taking a look at his OP.GG, he plays the Gnar, he plays the Maokai, and these aren't champions that draw similarities with an Olaf, for example. I think I definitely want to see him on a champion where he can jump in, cause havoc. Maybe a champion where he gets a winning matchup. I think that's the first adaptation I'd like to see. But I have to commend definitely from Black Lotus. Firstly, their bot lane in the laning phase, the initial level 2 trade was really nice to see. Capitalizing on that a bit more would be nice, and more importantly, great play from their mid laner.
Yeah. Their mid laner, I think, obviously was the star player on Black Lotus in game one. He did basically everything that happened with him. So really good performance from him in game one. Then on the other side, obviously um, Butler on Kog'Maw, who was just annihilating Black Lotus. So in game two, I feel like we might even see a Kog'Maw ban as drafts already started. Wacky Wraiths opting for that Gnar ban. Black Lotus top laner, as you mentioned, is a Gnar player, so not really surprised that going out. And following up with an Ivern ban, so it is kind of still staying around the same bans. Usually bans 2 and 3 is where those deviations between games happen.
Yeah, definitely, and I think more importantly, one thing to notice is Black Lotus is prioritizing this Ivern ban a lot, and they did this on blue side, which definitely suggests that their jungler does not pilot it, and they know that Robbery is a very capable Ivern player. And I think just off the bat, Wacky Wraiths off that last game, there are certain aspects to their team composition that is worth a B1. Like for example, I think we saw Bootner was super confident on that Kog'Maw. I can definitely imagine that being the first pick. But as the bans are coming through, they do, as you mentioned, follow a similar theme to last game, but with a bit more targeting towards what sort of happened in context of game one. So the Kog'Maw is out, so that won't be pickable for blue side. And with the Poppy ban as well, kind of suggesting that the early game pressure that came from the Black Lotus jungler was definitely strong. So
And Zaya ban, we might be seeing a Kai'Sa first pick here. Zaya is a lane that just does so good into Kai'Sa, and Kai'Sa is just a first pickable ADC. MF is also open here.
Yeah, MF also open, and we know that these two champions are very strong in the meta and definitely pickable early. So it's a really good call that the Zaya ban notifies that it's either going to be Misfortune or Kai'Sa. And I think we've seen a lot, not just in the SLE, but pro play as well, that there is big value on first picking Kai'Sa, but instead it will be the classic Maokai.
I mean, what's better than a tree throwing saplings,
Yeah, one tree gets banned, you pick the other one, right? So Black Lotus now have the opportunity to respond to this Maokai, and I can imagine they will pick either their jungler or their bot lane here.
I mean, when you pick a jungler like Maokai with a lot of CC, you kind of don't have to. As Black Lotus is picking the Misfortune, possibly. Oh,
Yeah.
and they do lock it in. Black
Yeah.
Lotus picks away the Misfortune from the side of Wacky Race. Misfortune, a champion that just pairs so well with Maokai, and they might even pair it with an Amumu here. So this is a completely different look from Black Lotus. I feel like just a team that wants to go in, wants to fight, and wants to have these explosive 5v5 fights.
Yeah, completely different indeed. And just to add some context, the AD carry blue of Black Lotus, Misfortune, second most played champion on in solo queue. So a very, very well versed Misfortune player, and on top of that, you've got the Amumu. So fantastic setup for this Misfortune to pump out crazy damage in these team fights. You layer that Curse of the Sad Mummy on top of the bullet time, and it is gonna be crazy damage. As you said, Kai'Sa opened, Misfortune picked. That is going to be the Kai'Sa locked in for Wacky Wraiths, and you can imagine this will be paired up with something like a Nautilus or maybe even an Enchanter like we saw in last game.
We compare like a Nautilus. Leona is also a really good pick into Misfortune, just because of her
Yeah,
ability to stop her ult from a long distance. So Leona wouldn't be a bad shout here. Now, personally, I would not really want to pick a support here yet. I would rather pick a blind strong mid laner or a top laner. But we see Seraphine support, and Wacky Race is playing with a sub support and sub top laner, and Amari, Wacky Race support, is basically kind of like you, an OTP. Plays a lot of
Okay.
Seraphine.
Okay.
So Kai'Sa Seraphine, not really a traditional pairing for the Kai'Sa, but definitely has a lot of pressure with Seraphine and lane. Obviously, on the other side, we see Nautilus being picked up. Nautilus, a champion that does really good, especially into these squishy enchanters.
Yeah, I have to agree, and I think as we continue the draft, we are yet to have a mid or top. Of course, there is an aspect that the Seraphine could be a flex pick, but if this player is a Seraphine main or following along the lines, the legacy of Von Trix, shout out to the boys, let's go. Then this Seraphine will be going into support. And what I would love to see, because Gloomiux on that Syndra was unreal. That was a fantastic performance. And I would love to see him get a matchup that he can win out and get to the team fights at an advantage. And speaking of team fights, we see a Nautilus being locked in there for Black Lotus. So we're rounding up a team composition here that is clearly headed towards one direction. Great band, love it. Headed towards one direction, and that direction is for team fights.
I mean, I lived in Shanghai for a while, for a long time, and I've heard One Direction there once. So, but honestly, like with Black Lotus here, they have a lot of CC, but I still think they need at least one more damage source, and I am expecting that to be a mid laner. So if we pick a top laner here that's like a bruiser, something that can fight, has a bit of CC as well, but also does damage, uh, like a Renekton would have been good, which obviously gets banned out, is good. And I think the fact though they banned Xerath, and Camille. Black Lotus missed the ban in LoL draft, but the ban is Camille. So they banned one for each lane, so they're not really indicating what they want to pick with these bans. But they will opt for the Ornn, which is overall a pretty good pick as well.
Actually, that being said, Xerath ban could potentially point towards an Azir pick. Is Xerath really strong in the meta, and Azir's worst matchup in my opinion. So, actually no, second worst. You know what? I'm not going to talk about Azir. Fuck that. So yeah, we see the Ornn being locked in for Black Lotus, and yeah, as we mentioned, this is a clear team fight composition, and they're definitely going to round this up with a high DPS mage for the mid lane, and Wacky Wraiths respond to the Ornn with a Fiora, one of the best matchups for Fiora, and a lot of eyes, because a lot of the times at this level, we see Fiora's locked in. If you're a very high skill cap champion, you can either do a lot or nothing at all, so it's going to be interesting. Obviously, Karuga is a substitute player, so not that much to be excited about in terms of, this isn't a player that we'll see in the SLE. I mean, of course, unless he gets subbed in. And the final pick to round up the competition for Wacky Wraiths will be the Braum. So that does mean that the Seraphine will go to the mid lane, and Black Lotus now have the chance to answer this. And I'm very excited because I want to see Gloomiux on a champion where he can really, really, really carry, and it is going to be a Tristana.
Tristana is pretty decent into Seraphine. I feel like has a lot of kill pressure in lane. And the thing is, you don't really need. When we see the Akali pick.
We see the Akali, and just for anyone who doesn't know anything about this player, This guy, it's his most played champion, the Akali. He is a specialist on this assassin, and it's going to be really interesting because traditionally assassins don't do too well into enchanters, but I think Akali is one of those champions where you have a kit that you can be creative on and find angles to punish a Seraphine. For example, using your ult and trying to anticipating when Seraphine's going to throw her CC out, because your ult, forces you to appear behind your opponent. That CC won't land. Or for example, if Seraphine's using what's the word, boosted E, or like
Boosted
upgraded
E?
E, not the boosted E,
Encore.
upgraded
No,
E.
Encore?
Yeah,
No, that's something else.
no, you know when he throws two spells.
When she uses her passive, basically.
Yeah, with passive on ability, for example, the double E to to land a root. If Akali can sort of react quickly enough, you can avoid that second E and dodge away from the root, which means a big angle to jump onto the Seraphine, stuff like that. And it's going to be interesting to see because, as I said, Gloomix is a specialist on this champion. It's his most played. This is his main champ, and he's picked it on R5. So a lot of eyes on him. This is potentially pressure because you want to come into a show match, pick your best, and show up big. So I'm very excited to see this.
I'm excited to see it too, but talking about Seraphine, that champion has a goofy interaction with Rylai's because you don't actually need the double E to get a root in. So once we get the Rylai's in Seraphine, which is usually second or third item, if she's mid, it will probably be third item. But Seraphine won't need the double E to get the root. You don't need one. Just throw it out, get the root off.
Oh yeah,
But
sure.
you have the Maokai ult, you have Seraphine, a lot of zone control from the side of Wacky Wraiths. But at the same time, Black Lotus, if Wacky Wraiths is trying to zone control a choke point, Black Lotus is like, this is what we want. We want the choke point. They've got a Moom ult, they've got Ornn ult, they got Misfortune ult. So many ults that can be paired up into a team like Kai'Sa, Seraphine, Fiora. So it will really be on Braum to get his shield up and protect his team from the Misfortune ult.
Yeah, and I think the Braum pick is really nice against the Ornn, but to be
Ornn
honest,
and Misfortune both.
yeah, Ornn and Misfortune, but to be honest, it doesn't. It's not the best protective support against a champion like Akali because essentially with Braum, you kind of want to stand in at the front of your team in terms of a fighting line and block all the incoming damage. Akali, a champion who comes in from the side or comes in from behind, and that's where the Braum probably won't provide much protection for the backline of Wacky Wraiths. So I think there's a lot of interactions that we can see here, but I mean, first, off the back, I can't not talk about this with a bot lane specialist here. Kai'Sa Braum into Misfortune Nautilus. This lane, based off my knowledge, this is slightly favored towards the Kai'Sa. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, why don't you break down this matchup really quickly?
Personally, I feel like I play a lot of Kai'Sa, so I would be comfortable in this bot lane, mostly because Braum does pretty good into Nautilus. It is kind of like support is a very bot lane is very dictated by supports, and Braum into Nautilus is a lane where Braum can really protect, especially into Misfortune into Nautilus. So definitely Kai'Sa can do good in this lane. But the thing is, Misfortune is almost more like a caster in lane than she is an actual AD carry. What you want to do is Misfortune. I think we will be seeing the lethality version with first strike. So what you really want to do is Misfortune is look to get the double ups from the minions, poke, do some damage like that, and just look to be annoying with Misfortune. Misfortune's like Bullet Rain or whatever that ability is called, her E. So
make it rain, I think.
Yeah, make it rain. So she really is more like a caster in this lane, which makes it kind of hard for Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa's good into lanes where she wants to fight, lanes that want to really, like fight, take heavy trades. Misfortune, on the other hand, is more like a poke. I would group her more towards like an Ezreal group of champion. Like Ezreal is almost like wants to fight as well, but also has that poke. Misfortune almost exclusively wants to poke, and she doesn't really do that good in all-in fights. And Braum isn't a champion that wants to all-in lane as well. He wants to like protect and kind of re-engage. So I think Misfortune could get out of this lane basically scot-free with scaling.
Yeah, and you kind of touched on the team fight pedigree of this Black Lotus team composition, and I think when it comes to objectives, we saw how much Wacky Wraiths were prioritizing the Dragons and the Heralds in the early game. up against this squad of Black Lotus, these objective fights won't be easy to approach. Like, actually, from both squads, you've got a Seraphine ultimate, you've got a Maokai ultimate, you have Brawl, you have a Fiora flank, and on the other side, it's a kind of similar story of Misfortune, a Mumu, Ornn ultimates with an Akali on the side, on the flank. So I think two team comps that are very well rounded, and I'm really hyped to see. And I'm gonna throw a similar question as I did at the start of last game. If there was a team composition that you would be favored to play in, which one is that?
I think this is a rough one. I think this is a much harder question than first game. Because the thing with Black Lotus, what the team comp wants to do overall, I think it's much easier. It's much easier to just go in, use your ults on top of each other, stack it, and that's it. You have the team fight, right? But if you don't do it properly, if you miss an ult, if you have a cooldown, something like that, and you get caught out, obviously you don't have anyone that can really match Fiora. I don't think Akali can match Fiora. I don't think Ornn can definitely not match Fiora in the later stages of the game. So you have that time pressure of, guys, we need to pull the trigger. We need to engage here and we need to take the fight. Otherwise, we lose our base to Fiora because they don't have that side lane pressure. So, I prefer playing Kai'Sa, so I'd rather play Kai'Sa.
Fair enough. Totally non-biased opinion.
Non-biased.
I mean, if you ask me, I absolutely hate playing Seraphine. Like, what on earth is that? So, as much as Seraphine looks so much better to play here, because Akali, like, as much as Akali, there are angles for Akali to play this well and carry the game. It's not easy by any means. This is a very difficult champion to maximize in this game situation. Like, essentially, like, we say your access to backline isn't that difficult because the Braum will be standing at the front most of the time. But the backline is a Seraphine and a Kai'Sa, and usually Kai'Sa jumps into enemy backline, so it won't be in their backline. And, you know, the Seraphine's an enchanter, has a lot of shields, a lot of tools to protect herself, so it is difficult, but again, Gloomiak's fantastic performance in game 1 was really holding down the fort for Black Lotus on the Syndra, and this time on his best champion. So maybe he can make it work. And I think you know, one thing I touched on is I wanted to see Missing Link on something where he can playmake a bit more, and this time on the Ornn, you could argue one of the primary or at least secondary engagers for this team comp, and we'll see what he can do on this champion.
I mean, definitely, especially if Braum is nowhere near the fight. If Amari is not in a good position, which makes just Missing Link able to hit the ult, obviously Amari can just throw her wall up, as we have the first pause of today. This pause is brought to you by Yomi's Yogurts.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I was saying, if Amari is not there to really throw up the Braum shield, and block the Ornn ult, I think the Ornn ult can really wreak some havoc as the pause has been resolved and the issue has been non-existent.
Yep. We are back into the game, and yeah, that's a really good point. I think one thing to point out is, like, of course, oh, this is probably a spectator bug, but yeah, I just got an update in my ear. Really nice spot that the Maokai forgot to buy items. And I think, was that the cause for the pause?
No, I don't feel like that was the cause. Usually, if something like that happens, you know, it plays on. Look at MSI. You know, wasn't the loud jungler that forgot to buy items as well?
Excuse me, this is the SLE. How dare you?
Yeah, this is like a level above MSI.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Sorry. Remind me. Okay, how many wins does Faker have in SLE?
Exactly.
So, how many tubs of Yomi's yogurt has Gumayushi consumed? Exactly. So,
yeah. How many times has JDG won SLE? 0. How many times has Gucci?
Twice. Exactly. So, we all know who's better. JDG, complete piss randoms. Don't clip that. Do not clip that. I didn't say it. Wasn't me. It was Flace. According to my picture, it was Flace Fettuccini's corporation that said that. All right, but
as we see, Isurgent pressuring those Raptors, knowing where the Amumu is. That ward doing its, doing work. Doing work. It's working.
Yeah, doing work indeed, and I think honestly, just looking at the two team composition, I'm not expecting too much action in the early parts of the lane phase. I think if anything, we might see some dueling out in the top lane. I think it's really important for Karuga on the Fiora to pull us off ahead, because when it comes to team fighting, Fiora does not compete against the Ornn, but when it comes to side laning, the Fiora has the significant advantage. And if you want to carry away with this game, it is about laning well and making sure, like, as you can see already, it has a decent CS lead, and it's just making sure about making sure you get ahead and being able to contest this Ornn in the side lane and creating pressure for your team. So we won't see much in the early game, but due to a very stale early game, I have to ask you, Seraphine here, starting the tier of the goddess, could this potentially suggest that this is probably going to go to like 30-40 minutes?
This most definitely will be a long game. Seraphine really does peak the best at 3 items. You know, she wants to get that Liandry's, wants to get Seraphs, and wants to get Rylai's. You know, those are like 3 core items on Seraphine. So I think this game will definitely be stalling out. Obviously, we see Butner going lethal tempo here on Kai'Sa, which does usually indicate that he wants to go for a more AD heavy build. So thinking Kraken into Navori would do really good, especially into a tanky composition like this. Usually the classic Kai'Sa build, you know, you have Halo Blades, you got that Rage Blade, you got Liandry's, you got Ludens, you know, more AP poke heavy. But, you know, with lethal tempo, usually you do want to be more heavy on the fighting.
Yeah, that's very, very true. And I think the last game we saw a very intense early game. A lot of the lanes were dueling it out against each other, and actually a lot of kills happening, a lot of summoner trades. And we're already starting to see, we're 4 minutes into the game and nothing much has happened. Junglers are kind of just scaling up, laners are kind of just fighting it out. But one thing already to note is we are seeing farm leads basically all across the board for the lanes of Wacky Wraiths. Is actually Karuga losing out on that trade, which Missing Link will be very happy about. But yeah, there's not big leads, there's small leads slowly growing for the lanes of Wacky Wraiths. And I think sometimes when you have 2 team compositions where it's like they both scale, as I say, no trading, but Gloomyx showing his pedigree on the Akali, and I absolutely love seeing a player who knows how to play Akali very well. Yeah, but as I was saying, we see farm leads growing for Wacky Wraiths, and I think, you know, very strong laners, and it's really important to make sure that when it comes to team fight versus team fight composition, getting to that first objective ahead is very nice. But speaking of first objective, Black Lotus pushing out bot lane, getting priority on this dragon.
Yeah, and starting Dragon here in 5 minutes, you know, having those key ultimates, it is a bit risky. I do feel like possibly Wacky Wraiths is a bit stronger in these early levels, but Maokai is on the top side. I don't know exactly if they spotted him on a ward, but they are starting this dragon. They are confident that they can contest it. So Black Lotus will be picking up the first dragon of the game here at 5 minutes, which is really good for them. For a team fighting composition, you really want to be on the dragon stacking. So, you know, getting it done early is really good. But on the top side,
oh, there's actually a fight. Gloomyx is looking for the first blood. What a play, using the perfect execution to take down Yuzjin, an SLE veteran. Here comes the rookie on his main champion in a 1 versus 2 under the enemy turret, getting the first kill of the game.
That was gotta be sweating. That play, I saw Maokai get over the wall, flash over the wall, root, knock him under tower. I was like, Gloomyx, you tried your best. But, you know, it wasn't enough. But he pulls out the impossible, gets the kill on Yusejin, flashes out, and lives as well.
And I think I really want to. I mean, there might be a fight in the bot lane. Davian is gonna get stunned up by the Braum passive, but will use the hook to get to the turret. But I really want to touch on something. Yuzjin, an SLE veteran, played the whole of last split, and more importantly, Yuzjin, the last game against Kim Jensen, looked really, really good. And Kim Jensen's one of the best mid laners we have in the league right now. Point is, Yuzjin is not a player that you can be taking lightly. And Gloomyx comes in on his Akali and says, "Bun that, I'ma solo kill him on Akali against Seraphine in a 1 versus 2. And here comes Oxykoni, knowing that he doesn't have the flash, Beautiful engage from the Mumu, and GloomyX is going to pick up his second kill of the game. And GloomyX putting in a statement performance in this series.
Yeah, obviously we see GloomyX on 2 kills already. Obviously he's behind a bit in CS, but that is to be expected. As you as a mid laner, you know how hard it is to actually CS and have that gold CS
What do you
lead.
mean I never fall behind on CS?
Yeah, but that's because you're an OTP. But anyway, it's hard to CS as a melee, especially into a champion that can poke and zone you so much as a Seraphine.
Yeah, and GloomyX, you keep performing like this, and you will soon be used to living in a big city, because right now, he is definitely competing against Usajin, who is, you know, one of our staple mid laners here, and you know, definitely someone who doesn't push the higher tier of mid laners in the SLE, but definitely someone who you know is a solid performer, and you know he's kind of in that middle of the pack team. But again, look at GloomyX putting the fight to this guy, and I think the interesting thing here, right, is taking a look at the Elos. If anyone opens op.gg, this should not even be close. Usajin should be having a field day with this guy, but GloomyX, game 1 and game 2 already showing why. Don't look at my elo, look at my gameplay, and pay attention to me, as there is a fight in the bot lane. Blue getting the kill onto Botner, as it's another lane fight, and it's going once again to the side of Black Lotus as the Misfortune Nautilus takes down the Kai'Sa.
Yeah, I feel like that fight, if you look at where they died, it was under tower, and what I feel like might have happened is the minion wave was very thin, and they just coordinated very close to when the minion wave dies and got help from the tower, because that was very, very deep from Kai'Sa and from Butner and Amari. As we see Herald being started up here from Robbery, but Black Lotus responding.
Yeah, Herald started up, but Black Lotus are here first. The Encore doesn't provide too much, as GloomyX is on a killing spree. SLE, keep your eyes open, because this guy is putting on a performance.
And Black Lotus is already 1.5k gold up at 10 minutes, has the first dragon, has the first herald, next dragon spawning in 10 minutes. And you know what the best thing is? They have an Ornn. And you know what that means for the game? It means that the business cost will go down, because they will get upgraded items.
Yeah, they will get upgraded items indeed, and I think this Ornn right now is having a bit of a rough lane phase, and you can see Karuga is playing this matchup extremely well, but I think looking at the other side of the map,
a pause.
Yeah, we see a pause coming. Yeah, looking at
you said rough.
Rough.
And you know what that reminds me of?
What?
It reminds me of a big dog. So yeah, second pause of the game.
Yes. Yeah, second pause of the game, and we're hearing it's a bit of a tech issue with communication, but yeah, it's looking rough. Oh gosh. If anyone is wondering what we're doing or playing at, don't ask. Just let us be.
Let us be. Me and Savage, we're in the zone right now.
We're in the zone right now. We're playing a little competition against each other. Just allow it, alright? As we take a pause, guys, I'd like to thank today's sponsors, Itchy's Ica. If you feel a bit icky and you need some vitamins in you, get that vitamin D. Get yourself a little 700 milliliter capsule. Canister of Itchy's Ica. It really does provide you with the greens. If you don't like vegetables, this is the perfect supplement to take in. You know, especially since, you know, certain options like Flace Fettuccine sandwiches in terms of nutritional value doesn't quite hit that. That's very fascinating food. So pair it up with Itchy's Ica and you'll be good to go. So I think already this game too is looking pretty good for Black Lotus, and I think if you're Wacky Wraiths, what's sort of the game plan right now?
I think the gameplay right now is you can say, all right, you know, let's fight for these objectives, but you're a bit behind. Obviously, we see MF building that non-lethality build, the actual ADC build, but Dragon's coming up. You're a bit behind. Obviously, you have Prio here, but you know, is this it? Do you want to fight this? Is a fight going on?
Yeah, there is a fight going on indeed, and it looks like it's Black Lotus who are getting the upper hand as Gloomix is already putting down the damage. Triple kill for the Akali main himself. Karuga is left on the run, but the hook does land. Oxykoni crying on top of Karuga saying, "Oh, listen to my problem," doing so much damage, and Karuga and Robbery are on the run, but here comes the star of the show. Gloomix is on the horizon as the E lands, and he's gonna pick himself another kill. Rampage for the Akali, and it is gonna be an objective, and Black Lotus are putting in an absolute pounding on the Wacky Wraiths squad.
And I mean, this is it. You know, you just asked me what should you do as Wacky Wraiths, and I was gonna say, look, sometimes when you fall this behind early, maybe it's not the best to take these fights. Maybe it's just the best to, you know, scale a bit, wait it out. But Wacky Wraiths said, no, we're taking this fight. You know, this is what we want. You know, it's a show match. We want to fight.
No, indeed. And I think one thing that I actually really want to talk about is never mind. Thanks for the interruption. As everything misses on Butner, but they say it said, Kaiser's too tanky, let's go for the brawn. Yeah, that's another kill over for Black Lotus, but I need to talk about, I need to talk about Gloomix on this Akali right now. He is a silver ranked mid laner, but I have to say, having played in the SLE for a long time now, there is a bit of magic in the air when it comes to the SLE, in the sense that, oh, Blue got solo kill. Okay, anyway. There is a bit of magic in the air with the SLE of like, there's been so many mid laners who, on paper, you look at their rank and they're like, they shouldn't even be close to being able to breathe in the SLE, but they do perform. And I think that speaks values about what the SLE is. If you come up and you want to win more than your opponent, and if you're ready to put your money where your mouth is, you really can show up. And Gloomix is the perfect example of that, as he's performed really well 2 games in a row up against a player like Yusjin, who is very experienced and very, very well standard in the SLE.
Yeah, and I mean, as you say as well, it's just such a big contrast by how just solo queue is played out as Gloomix is going in for the solo kill here.
Yeah, solo kill indeed, and dominating. Look at the clean assassination coming out from Gloomix, and honestly, ban this Akali. I honestly, I don't want to see this man getting that Akali again, because look at what is happening. Gloomix putting on a MVP performance, 9 kills. Guys, we've seen some of the best mid laners play this Akali, and it hasn't been this dominant ever before, and Gloomix putting in a name for himself as the Herald gets popped into the mid lane.
Oxykoni threw a bandage toss there. I'm not sure if that was a good idea if it hits.
Yeah, teleport coming in from Yusjin. This is his redemption arc. Curse of the Sad Mummy buying some time for the Akali. The Akali cannot die here as it gives so much gold over, as Oxykoni is going to trade his life to ensure his star mid laner gets away.
Oh, that was a big play to make on mid lane here, which just means Butner is losing waves bot. You know, you need to get Braum there, you need to get the TP from Seraphine just to try and get the shutdown onto Akali. Kaisa is Butner getting dived here.
Yeah, Butner getting dived, and it's going to be the kill going over to Fabian. Robbery will trade one back, but there goes the bullet time, and Blue is going to pick himself a kill of his own. There is a solo kill in the top lane, so missing link will fall to Karuga. And yeah, listen, my hair color is broken, but the point is, Gloomix is putting in a absolute clinic as he goes godlike. Yusjin, you need to step up, mister, because this silver player is putting you in the dirt on the Seraphine, and you, like, genuinely everyone watching right now, Gloomix is looking like an absolute star.
You know, I just had a thought occur to me. You know, Braum is bald.
Yup.
You know? But like back in the day, I honestly think he probably had like pink and green hair. Like honestly, he just gives me those vibes.
Yeah, probably does give those vibes. And yeah, I think right now this game is not looking too good for Wacky Wraiths, and I think
Gloomix not magized.
Oh my god,
This is it.
Gloomix.
This is it. 25, 25, 25.
Guys, I have to say, this is a silver player coming into a league where there are Diamond 1 master players, and he's just gone and bought Medjai's as his second item. The confidence coming out from this player, he says, I don't care what rank you are. I don't care if you're an Emerald mid laner. I'm here to beat you, and I'm here to kill you on repeat. And yeah, if you're Yusjin right now, this is a rough situation because in terms of confidence, what does this do to your confidence of you're an Emerald player, you are an SLE veteran, you are one of the staple mid laners of this league, and some silver player has just come in and made you look like a child. As Bruno gets hooked, and he is almost fallen. The curse of the sad mummy is going to land big time. Legendary goes Gloomix. He's going to get himself out of there, and it seems every time he goes in, assassinates one member, and gets out clean with his life. And that is another kill going over to the man in the mid lane. 11-0 on the Akali.
Herald gets popped mid as well, doesn't even get to get the charge off before tower falls down. They will be getting another charge most likely, or maybe even not. Amari and Yusechin will be clearing this Herald out, so the Herald does kind of go two ways, but they still get the pressure, they still get a mid tower, so it's even in towers now. But that Fiora though, I think is Wacky Wraiths saving grace in this game.
The
Their mid laner
is... Yeah.
Yusechin's behind, Butner's behind, but who will match Fiora? You will need to respond with multiple people onto that Fiora, and I think Gloomix being fed here, I think that is what can match the Fiora.
Yeah, definitely indeed, but nonetheless, Gloomix will take the angle of playing with his team as there is a third dragon going over to Black Lotus, and this soul is going to be pretty big for Gloomix. It's going to allow him to stay alive in these fights, and yeah, I have to say, if you're missing Link here, you are kind of like that man at the coffee shop who's been sitting there alone for some time. And when Gloomix comes in for the fight, it's like he's being joined by a very beautiful woman, and he's enjoying that. So,
Akali's my type.
Yeah, Akali's my type.
Yeah.
But obviously, you'd have to sleep with one eye open. That's the only thing. As you mentioned, a lot of focus on Karuga here because he is the saving grace of this team. He is the only member of Wacky Wraiths, I believe, that is ahead over his opposite number. But with the team fight play that Black Lotus are doing, he's not on a timer, but there's definitely pressure on him to make an impactful side lane push before the Black Lotus squad engages onto these team fights, because Oxyconey, obviously Gloomix is playing like a star, but Oxyconey has been a bit of an underrated hero here, landing many key engages in this fight. As speaking of key engages, Yusechin putting a name for himself, landing a two-man encore, but is it going to be enough? Are they too far behind as Gloomix has joined the fight alongside missing Link? His top laner and his mid laner are looking to make things happen. He doesn't quite get the kill on Amari as Karuga is here, and you have to respect how strong this Fiora is. Bruno on the run, Oxyconey chasing him out. Can he land the bandage toss? He kind of throws it wide, so Bruno will get away, and that is the angle. Yusechin landing a beautiful encore, showing his Seraphine prowess, getting 2 kills for his squad onto the bot lane of Black Lotus.
Yeah, and honestly, Gloomix again, goes in, notices that maybe it's a bit too deep, doesn't overextend like we would see. I feel like a lot of people would do it, see, okay, I'm probably gonna die, I'm gonna get a kill. He recognizes he's in too deep and just dashes out, saves himself, doesn't give away the bounty. And it's just Gloomix, his performance this game has been just phenomenal, spectacular. It's just a pleasure to watch.
Yeah, definitely a pleasure to watch, and I think 11-0, 16 stacks on the Medjai's. His team, as you can see, they're building a lot of utility around him, like full tank basically topside. No AP or Mumus here, which we've seen in a few show matches. But yeah, going for that full tank, and we built the Abyssal Mask as well to even supply even more damage for the Akali. And this is looking good for Black Lotus. But one thing, and I'm already seeing it on my map, Karuga is pushing down that tier 2 bot lane turret, but obviously Black Lotus will take this as the angle to go for the Baron. This is a 4 versus 5 and a tricky one. Baron will reduce resistances, but Gloomix not in a position for a flank, actually, which is very interesting as the hook already lands. The encore is big and a potential good fight, but no, Gloomix is just too strong as Blue with the bullet time and the perfect execution, the shutdown, but it goes to the Maokai. Not the target you want, the gold on robbery, left in a 1 versus 4. He's going to try and do as much as he can, but it's going to be Blue picking up the kill, and Karuga, all you can do is split push. He won't push any further, does get the tier 2, but once again, Black Lotus getting way too much that the Wacky Wraiths can handle.
Oh, and that hook goes just way too short, but that fight from Black Lotus, recognizing Fiora's pushing bot, they need to do something. They pull the trigger on top side, they fight for that Baron, and Gloomix, again, with such a performance, you know, a lot of places have memorable sites. For example, the Pro Towers in Shanghai is such a good site in China, but definitely on the Rift today, Gloomix, just a memorable performance.
Yeah, funny you mentioned that, because I have lived in Shanghai for a long time, but I haven't seen a squad team fight like the way the Black Lotus team are team fighting today. Because, yeah, as Yusjin looking like he's getting caught out already, 1 and 7. I didn't even realize his KDA. He is putting in a absolute disaster class as he is on the run from Oxycody. Lands a nice route, but it is on the tanks though, so they won't take too much damage as the bot lane is being pushed in. A bandage toss lands onto the Seraphine, and Oxycody actually slowly getting chunked down, but on your screen you can see Gloomix is approaching, and you can see the impact that has the Wacky Wraith squad see an Akali and go, oh my god, the hair curler is broken. Wait, I think I've already said that.
You said that already.
That's fine. Anyway, as they go on the run, and really important fight, this is the Dragon Soul. Wacky Wraiths identify they cannot give this up. They cannot let this go down, because that is basically the end of the game. But with the Baron buff up, the minis being pushed in, this is a rough situation for Wacky Wraiths. Oh my god, that was a flash 3-man ultimate out of nowhere. Oxycody doing his best Randy Orton impression as the encore only lands onto 1. The team fight is going on. This is without the Akali as the team fight is going to the side of the Black Lotus squad. It's only Amori on the Braum left, missing Link, trying to do his best. He had pink and green. Oh wait, you've already said that.
I mean, honestly, by the way they're playing, they definitely wanted to paint the walls blue, but all they see is red. But thank God their landlord had a no paint policy. Jeez. But picking up the soul here as well, Blue might be getting a bit caught here by Karuga, but saved by Oxycody.
Karuga is trying to do his best, but the misfortune, she created an app to match zombies with willing victims, and down goes Karuga, the only hope for the Wacky Wraith squad. And Black Lotus have secured themselves the Dragon Soul. They have the Baron buffed minions pushing into the bot lane, and 23 kills to 8. This is just about over.
And it's a 24-minute game. We've seen Baron, 23 kills to 8, Dragon Soul, 5k gold lead, but only 2 towers taken from the side of Black Lotus. This Baron sure was utilized, you got soul out of it, but you didn't really break open the map. But as we see Black Lotus here moving around the top side, they're gonna start picking up this top outer tower, the only one left on the map, and start pushing it through. We got Elder spawning in 5 minutes and Baron in 3 minutes, basically. So
yeah, it's a really tough situation, and especially I'm taking a look at Robbery's build, and understandably so, you want to make sure you have enough AP damage with this team composition, but going full AP Maokai, meaning that it's just an easy target for Blue and Gloomix to take you down, and it's very rough for Wacky Wraiths. And
engaging with his ult.
There is an engage, and this could be the angle. So it is going to be Fabian take it down, but look at the bullet time coming out from Blue, doing so much damage layered on top of the Curse of the Sad Mummy, and that's going to be another team fight going to the side of Black Lotus. And right now, it just seems like Wacky Wraiths are making desperation plays, and it's just not adding up to anything.
I mean, so many key abilities here used by the side of Wacky Wraiths just to kill Fabian on that Nautilus. You know, it's not even a key pick, not key engage. It's just there for Black Lotus. It's not the engage like a Mumu Ornn. It's just a hook. It's a pick. That's what Nautilus is. And when you use Seraphine's ult, when you use Maokai ult, just to get the kill on the Nautilus, it doesn't really do anything for you. Black Lotus from that picks up a tower, picks up a few kills, and just snowballs their lead as Karuga here on the side might be getting.
Speaking of desperation plays, Karuga trying to take the 1v1, but missing Link had his team to back him up, and down goes the Fiora. And right now, Wacky Wraiths, it is looking absolutely disastrous. They are pulling the strings here, trying to make as much happen, but Black Lotus, what a performance here. And I think when it comes to looking at the strength of the new teams coming in, I don't think Black Lotus were being rated as one of the strong teams as a new squad coming into the SLE. But after this show match, and these are what the show matches are about. It's about showing what your new roster has. It's about showing what are we in relation to the SLE level. And I think Black Lotus right now, everyone watching, they're going to stop underrating this team, and they're going to start putting some respect on their name.
Yeah, and I mean, it's also, you know, think about it for teams. Like you said, how much does it actually affect you, right? For Sejin here, coming into the match, probably looked at the OpenGG, said, yeah, I'm playing into a silver mid laner, you know? But then just you know, being, I don't want it to sound bad, but definitely this game outclassed by Gloomiux on that Akali.
Let's
definitely
just say
having a good performance.
Let's just say Gloomix grabbed a piece of salami from a savage sandwiches and shoved it up Yusjin's ass. I don't know if are we gonna get in trouble for what I've just said?
You will. PG.
Anyway, I just wanted to shout out a sponsor.
Started off from Black Lotus here.
Yeah, Baron started up as a Black Lotus, now secured their second Baron of the game. Wacky Wraiths, they're gonna get a bit of consolation here with the mid lane turret. But you know, actually, I will say something about the Wacky Wraiths is they're so far behind, but they are actually ahead on turrets. So
I mean, this is Fiora. That's the power of Fiora, and they're picking up a lot of objective bounties here. So that gold lead, and we see another pause coming in.
Yeah, we see a pause coming in, and one thing I've noticed, there has been a bit of a decline in activity from the Wacky Wraiths squad. There was a lot of team fights, a lot of fights happening over and over again. Black Lotus were pushing their lead forward and forward, trying to close the game out. And yes, at the back end of this Baron, they secure it. But the Wacky Wraiths identify, we're not going to win any team fight from now on. Whenever they're doing something, they move as a 5. Let's move as a 2, as a 3. Let's push out the lanes where we know that they're not going to be at. And as a result of that, they've just picked up 2 turrets in the mid lane in the time that the Black Lotus members were taking down the Baron. Karuga pushed down onto the bot lane. So I think, yes, Wacky Wraiths, they have looked terrible this game. They've looked completely off the ball in terms of the laners. It's just looked completely gapped against players that they should be beating. But the Black Lotus squad, right now, you can't lose the focus, you can't take your eye off the ball, the game is not done and dusted, and as a result, maybe potentially a lack of focus, Wacky Wraiths are kind of back into this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think Wacky Wraiths definitely realized their way back into the game. They said, okay, we have objective bounties, and we have a Fiora, you know, Fiora just so much push on the side lane, Hullbreaker, where'd that come from? But you know, you can queue the towers, you got demolished, you can just push down towers so fast that with objective bounties, you have so much gold for your team. Even if you're behind, you're gonna get to your items faster, you're gonna get to your power spikes faster, and even if your mid laner is 2 and 8, it doesn't matter because you get objective bounties.
Exactly, and I think, yeah, we have been, obviously we've been critical of Yusjin's performance this game, but the point is like, you are a Seraphine. I think the value of that champion comes regardless of how strong or weak you are into the game. I think the only difference now is Black Lotus need to respect the split push now, and they need to ensure that this doesn't get out of hand, because it is slowly approaching that stage where we're hitting that stage where Ornn's providing big value to these team fights with the Call of the Forge Chord, but we're getting to a stage where Ornn now kind of has to abandon his team and sit on the side lane. Alternatively, it could be Gloomix, but the strength of this Black Lotus performance has come in them moving as a 5, but because of this split push and because of the pressure coming out from the Fiora, they can no longer do that, as we can already see the adaptation with Gloomix being put onto the side lane. But of course, as I mentioned, this does mean now they can't pressure as heavily as they could with their star man on the side lane.
Yeah, and I think what's wacky, you know, even if the Seraphine is 2 and 8, even if Sejin's only on the Andres, it still has so much wave clear that Black Lotus has a hard time getting to destroy these towers, even with Baron. The wave clear from the side of Wacky Wraiths is really helping this, as we see an engage from Missing Link.
Yeah, talking of engage, don't give them the time to break our base as the Call of the Forge God comes in, followed up with a 3-man Curse of the Sad Mummy. Gloomy isn't even in this fight, but here he comes. The bullet time finishes off the Braum, and Gloomy is landing the solo kills. The team fight kills onto the back line of Wacky Wraiths, and there goes the game. Karuga's split push wasn't quite enough. Black Lotus, 31 kills against the staple Wacky Wraiths of the SLE, and this series is up 1-1, and we go into the final game deciding the series.
Yeah, and Glomix, you know, I would usually ask you, who do you think the best performing player? Who do you think's your MVP of the game?
Don't even ask.
We don't even vote, public vote. Nah, we're vetoing this. Glomix MVP, for sure.
Gloomy MVP indeed, and you can tell this guy before that game, he made sure he consumed a 6-inch sub Savage sandwich and a small plate of Flace fettuccine, because what a performance that was on the Akalian. You know, I've touched on him being silver many times, and the reason for that is because, okay, let's calculate roughly the elo difference here. Justin is almost 200-300 LP better. Wait, probably more.
He's like almost 1,000 LP.
He's almost 1,000 league points better. Well, apparently not better. He's 1,000 league points ahead
above
of this.
above.
Yeah. Gloomix. But after that game, it just did not look like that whatsoever. Gloomix, you know, I've seen so many capable Akali players. We've had some of the best Akali players in this league. I'm talking about the likes of Captain in X-Ties, Yeon, S7X, and I think that matches up to those standard of players. And when we talk about these players are all Diamond 1 peaks. Gloomix is silver. He's silver. And he's put in an Akali performance that matches the high elo players that we've seen of the SLE. So big shout out to him. And even in the game they lost, he was the star performer. And maybe I'm being biased because I love mid lane, but when I see a mid laner performing like this, oh, it makes me wet. Almost as wet and beautifully cooked as a Flace fettuccine sauce.
You definitely give me vibes of someone that will walk around the streets with like "I heart mid lane" shirt.
yeah. Well, if I started a business like that, the business costs will go down. So, yeah, anyway, guys, we're going to throw to a break now because we have an exciting Game 3 incoming. I think there's been a lot of 3-0s for these show matches, which kind of affect how exciting it is. But for the very small minority, we have a 1-1 series with a final game decider. So do not go anywhere. Go grab yourself a Yomi's yogurt as a snack and be sure to be here to watch the final game.
I got one more question for you before we go on break.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have your Twitch Prime, by the way? You know, I have my Twitch Prime. I have it open. So, you know, I feel like a lot of people do.
A lot of people do. Actually, you know what? So according to my calculations, wait, okay, 2x fire carried the 2. Subscribe to the SLE Twitch channel with your Twitch Prime.
There you go. I got my Twitch Prime cancelled.
Guys, it's in the mathematics. Do make sure you do that.
It's free. It's free.
Guys, if you subscribe with your Twitch Prime, I'm sure
Savonix will do a queue with you.
Yeah, no. If you subscribe with your Twitch Prime, Flay will supply you with a lifetime supply of Flay's fettuccines. Obviously, I haven't asked him if he will actually do that, but now that I've broadcasted it, he will. So we will now throw it to a break, and don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everyone, and I hope you're having a lovely Sunday afternoon, as good as mine, as my co-caster Sanix. We've seen an absolutely incredible series. The first game was a little bit back and forth, but it did go to the hands of Wacky Wraiths, and their second game wasn't like that at all. Maybe you could provide a bit more information on how that went.
Yeah, the second game from from Black Lotus was it's just a completely different beast from game one. Game one, it felt like they were hesitant. They were pretty slow on how to make plays. They're still responding, still playing pretty like reactively. But game two, they just flipped it over. They said, you know what, maybe we should try something else. They picked
Yeah.
engage. They started pulling the trigger, and Gloomix on that Akali. Oh my god.
Oh my god, indeed. And that Akali was such a resounding performance, and I think just looking at the facts and everything, you just wouldn't have expected that. Like, of course, like looking at his account, Akali is his most played champion, but you know, to come up against such an experienced player like Houston and put in a performance like that, it really has the rest of the SLE on high alert about this player. And I think like for you, right? I
Yeah.
think that there's one very interesting topic about the SLE of sometimes rank is not the main story of everything. Sometimes you could be the highest ranked player, but you will play against a very average elo or even low elo player, and he will potentially put you in the dirt. So why is it, do you think, that the SLE has this weird magic about it where the underdogs can topple over its strong opponents?
Yeah, I don't remember if I actually finished my thought earlier, but I was going to say that um like competitive and solo queue are two completely different beasts of a game. Just the way you play it out, the way it plays out. So if you get into a team where you're comfortable with your teammates, you have, you vibe with them, you're chilling with them, and you just have overall like good communication and awareness of your team, and you build up that chemistry. I think it doesn't matter. Your rank doesn't matter. Like, sure, you might have a bit worse like micro performances, but even in this case, Gloomix on that Akali was playing like he's a top 10 Akali player.
Exactly, yeah. Um, so yeah, that's a really, really good point. Solo queue and competitive, two completely different beasts, and I think there's no better sample size for that statement than this current series because our resident silver player is definitely playing well above his current rank, and he's performing very well as we are already into the final game draft. So we've got Poppy and Ivan banned out, basically a very similar story to the second game. And Wacky Wraiths, you've come up off the back of a complete battering of your team, and not just a battering as a squad. Mid and bot lane were not going well in your favor. And if you're Wacky Wraiths here, what are the adaptations you want to make?
Yeah, obviously, I mean, we're still seeing that Poppy ban from game one. The bans are still staying. Sorry,
No problem.
the bans are still staying the same as as they were in game one. But game one, Black Lotus was red side. Sorry, but was blue side. They first picked the Poppy, and then they lost the game. So now we're back to game one. Wacky Race is on red side, and it might be, some teams are more comfortable on a certain side. Red side is a side that reacts to the draft. So you counter pick mid, you counter pick top. You pick lanes which are favorable to you. While on blue side, you usually pick what's strong. As here we already see the Misfortune Hover, it might even be first pick, did a lot of work in game two for Black Lotus. It is open, and it is a pick they're taking away from Wacky Race, and they will lock it in. So I think this is already good from Black Lotus here, picking something that you're not going to ban out, something that your ADC is comfortable on, and something that you also take away from Wacky Race ADC.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You just took down Wacky Wraiths Y with this Misfortune pick, and of course Gloomix was kind of stealing the show, but I think Blue on the Misfortune definitely put out some crazy damage, layered that bullet time with the Cuss of the Sad Mummy. So why not pick it up again? And Wacky Wraiths talking about adaptations, making sure that they do not have that same setup. So we'll take the Mumu away.
Yeah, and obviously picking a Mumu, last split, Heart out to Smiling Panda, was a jungler in SLE, known for his
Yeah.
Amumu.
The goat.
Basically, I think he was one of the first people that started playing it, and I'm just happy to see the Amumu being picked up here. He's such a strong champion, so much engaged. Pairing it with a Zaya, an ADC that doesn't want to get engaged on, that's really good, or I mean, that wants to get engaged on, have that space, have the feathers pull back. And the one jungler that's generally good into Zaya, Jarvan, who's really good in the meta right now, is Ban. So Zaya as a whole is a really, really good pick here as well.
Yeah, fantastic pick here. And I really like what Zaya provides up against the Misfortune.
Wait, Lar's open. They got
Oh.
Lar.
Oh, missing link.
Missing link.
Missing
Oh.
link is able to secure his main. Now, they left the Akali open again, so we've seen what this player can do on his main, and this time it is the other solo laner of Black Lotus who secures his main champion. And you know, we saw Wacky Wraiths sort of regretting that decision after last game, and once again they do lock in the Seraphine. Please ban Akali in this second rotation, because
I feel like if I was playing in Wacky Race right now, I would ban both Akali and Tristana, because you remember they hovered Tristana.
Yeah.
Akali was the last second pick. So Black Lotus is definitely a team that would play Tristana, but is it good with their draft? They have a Sejuani. Wait a moment.
Oh.
I just had Silas. Silas is so good for
Oh.
Black Lotus here.
Yeah, Silas is a fantastic pick here, and you can see the Malphite ban suggests that. Wait, if you're what?
Black
The
Lotus.
Wacky Wraith will pick Silas.
No.
Honestly, Silas is good for both teams.
Silas is good for both teams, but if Black Lotus gets their hand on Silas here, I think it's gonna be really rough for Wacky Rates. Already two good ults, good pairing with the jungler, so you have those good skirmish fights.
Yep,
I don't
yeah.
know.
I definitely
Silas
agree.
is
I think Silas being picked up here for Black Lotus could be an incredible pick, because you've got the Amumu ult, you've got the Seraphine ult, which you can see in terms of the lane phase. Silas can out-sustain the Seraphine poke, so you can find angles to drop on her as well and look for kills. And if you're Gloomix, you're coming off the back of that last game thinking, I solo killed that guy on repeat under his turret. Give me a champion that I can do the same thing as the Silas gets instantly locked in. Is it locked in? No, not yet. It's hovered.
It's hovered.
Chill. It's right. I'm leaning back on my chair. I'm hungover. But
Yeah, you're hanging over your chair. Yeah.
I'm hungover because I didn't eat flakes fettuccinis last night to soak up the alcohol. Great.
Yeah.
Hangover kill. But yeah, so Gwen locked in by Karuga in last game.
Silas and Nautilus both get knocked in.
Yeah, Silas and Nautilus locked in. So once again, Black Lotus going for that team fight composition. But Wacky Wraiths, their substitute top laner Karuga caused crazy havoc on the side lane, and he's picked up another champion that he can do something similar, but with a bit more team fight capability. So we'll see what the last pick here is. Of course, there is that aspect that this Seraphine still can go into the bot lane. There is no suggestion for that up until now, as the Tristana gets hovered into the Silas. And speaking of adaptations, Tristana, a fantastic champion into the Silas. Silas does not have a good ultimate to steal up against the Tristana. More importantly, Silas, a melee champion up against a lane bully AD carry. And yeah, Yusjin, this time around, it's on you to come back from that disaster class performance from the last game. And it's going to be another mid lane focused game, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, most definitely mid lane focus, but this time Wacky Rates has those, trigger pulls. They have the Amumu Bandage Toss, they have the Amumu ult, they have Seraphine ult, and you know what? If Black Lotus engages with the stolen Amumu ult, with the stolen Seraphine ult, who are they gonna engage on? Gwen has her Shroud, Tristana can buffer jump away, Zaya can just ult.
Yeah.
How are they gonna get on top of Wacky Rates?
How are they going to get on top indeed? Like, the Wacky Wraiths team composition right now looks so well-rounded, and I think usually with these heavy team fight compositions, there's often a sacrifice for the early game, but looking at the lanes, you have a Tristana into a Silas, you have a Zaya Seraphine who can play safe in the bot lane, and it's going to be really difficult for Black Lotus. The only saving grace here for Black Lotus in terms of draft is that the Gnar matchup into the Gwen low key, Karuga kind of self-counterpicked himself. The Silas has a Seraphine and an Amumu ultimate to steal, so if he can get out of the laning phase without dropping too many kills to the Tristana, the Black Lotus team composition can come online and can cause crazy havoc in the game.
Yeah, I also want to say Nar was buffed this patch as well.
Mm.
Nar received a massive steroid buff. At least I'm not a top laner. I might be wrong, but from what I've been hearing is that this champ has just received so much into his kit. So overall, a really strong pickup, and him having a counter matchup into this Gwen. Obviously you pick Gwen, it's a counter matchup. You're putting your top laner at a disadvantage, but Gwen does a lot at the later stages of the game for the composition of Wacky Wraiths. So they said, you know what, maybe our top laner, maybe he can fall a bit behind in lane, but if he's gonna do what he did last game for us, it's still fine.
Yeah, still fine indeed. And I think taking a look at like how last game went with Wacky Wraiths, leaving one of their solo laners to leaving one of Black Lotus's solo laners with his main champion this time around, it is going to be Missing Link. Missing Link last game in game 1 was a bit of a spectator, didn't really provide much on the Olaf. In game 2, landed some really lovely Call of the Forge Gods on the Ornn to set up the team composition with the MF and the Amumu, and this time around another team fight champion for Missing Link. So, and more importantly, this is his best champ, this is his main. So once again, I like what they're doing here, putting their top laner, putting their highest ranked player on a champion that can do things and make things happen in the team fights. So yeah, I'm gonna throw you again that question. If there's a team comp that you would prefer to play on, which one would it be?
Oh, okay. This is actually the hardest one now out of all 3 games. Oh man, as I said before, it is really, really, really hard to get on top of Wacky Wraiths members at the later stages of the game. But then when you look at it, like the early skirmish fights of Sejunar and Silas are super strong. And I don't think Seraphine Zaya again on bot lane is such a strong lane in comparison to Misfortune Nautilus.
Yeah.
Sure, they have the scaling. Sure, they have the Tristana late game. They have the Seraphine late game. They have the Gwen late game. Those champions, once they get 3 items, once they get those levels in, Tristana gets her range. Everyone knows what a menace Gwen is, and everyone knows how annoying Seraphine is to play against, especially at level 16. But
Yeah.
I think I would still opt for Black Lotus's comp here, just because of their playstyle, just because of how this comp wants to play. They want to fight, they want to skirmish, they want to be there for objectives. They don't want to scale. They said scaling? No, throw that in the bin. We are fighting. This is who we are. And I love seeing Missing Link on a champion like Nar, because he is showing what kind of player he is. All of game 1, sure, he might be comfortable on it. It might be a champion he plays often. But we saw how much he did on Ornn game 2, and he got his main now. He got his Nar in game 3, a champion that wants to manage his rage, wants to get a flank on, and wants to get a massive engage in the fight, wants to make that play happen. And I think Missing Link is the player to make this happen for Black Lotus, so I'm going to say I would pick Black Lotus.
Yeah, very, very good analysis there. And I think I kind of have to say something similar, but in the perspective of the Silas, because like looking at the matchup here, the matchup's great for you. Wait, no, not the Seraphine. The matchup's right. Let me rewind. I still would pick the Silas. The matchup is not easy, but if you do get past that matchup, you've got team fights with the Amumu ultimate and the Seraphine ultimate. On top of that, if you really want to stay safe, you have a Zaya and a Tristana ultimate that you can take. And with that being said, the Tristana ultimate, it's not the same level of strength as an Amumu or a Seraphine ult, but it's still a very, very nice ultimate for Silas to steal. It still does a fantastic amount of damage, and more importantly, it's the kind of ultimate that you can execute champions on. So I think just looking at the things that you can do, I think the best way I would phrase it is the ceiling of this Silas performance can be very, very high depending on how capable he is on the champion, and I think that's what I would say. I would rather play on the Black Lotus team composition, but of course that's not saying that the Wacky Wraith team comp is weak by any means. I think their team comp is extremely powerful as well, because this Tristana, in a similar vein, there's a lot of opportunity right now for Gloomix to once again put in a crazy carry performance, but on the other side, it's on Yushin, because I'm looking at this composition right now, and I'm saying which lane from Wacky Wraiths is going to be able to have the most opportunity to get ahead in the early game, get himself a lean in the laning phase, and it's going to be Yushin. After that last game, very unfortunate performance, and it was rough, and it must have felt rough to be losing that much to a silver player. So this time around, you've gone and picked yourself up an aggressive mid laner into Tristana, and we've seen Tristana in SLE, we've seen Tristana in LEC, in pro play. This is a champion that really can put out the damage and really can pull in a big carry performance. And Yusjin, off the back of the last game, this is definitely one for the confidence boost.
And what another thing I want to touch on here is they have so much push power with the Gwen and Tristana on side lanes. They can break through towers. They can get through really fast. So if Black Lotus makes a mistake in a fight, later stages in the game, Wacky Wraiths has the ability to finish games really fast with how much push they have. They have the explosive charge on towers. They have the Gwen auto attack, resets damage, attack speed, boom, 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 towers falling down. Wow. You know, also, I wanna mention, you said, Tristana is not the best ult for Sylas to steal, but Tristana's ult does have 100% AP scaling on it, so it is a massive damage burst.
Okay,
on Sylas. If he wants to do a full combo, he can have that extra damage on it. And considering how squishy a lot of the lineup on Wacky Wraiths here is, it's not that bad of an ult.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a very interesting point, because that definitely changes that sort of dynamic and interaction. So, yeah, I think so far, if you could give a certain shout out to what you would say is like an MVP performance, who's your shout?
For this series, I would definitely say Glumix. Game 1 obviously wasn't the strongest performance, but on the Syndra, he was definitely the saving grace of Black Lotus. They're light in a dark street. You know where I'm going, right?
Life at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. You can put it like that. But game 2, it was definitely him. I think he's just had 2 good performances in a row. I think he can close it on with this one.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see. Just interestingly, taking a look at some of the rune setups here, Tristana going with the fleet footwork, making sure that she's got a little bit of utility in her rune setup, and Sylas opting not for the first strike, which is something some Sylas players do, so going for the Conqueror. I think it definitely makes sense, because you are up against an Amumu, up against a Tristana. These fights won't be instant. There will be some time in these fights, so having something like the Conqueror that can stack over time is going to be very valuable for him. So I don't expect much to happen in the early game, Sanix. Do you see... okay. Question. Predicts the timing of the first kill. Go.
The timing of the first kill?
Yes.
4 minutes and 32 seconds.
4 minutes and 32 seconds. All right. Everyone watching, write that down somewhere. If there's a kill... If there's a kill at 4 minutes 32, we will give Sanix a lifetime supply of Yomi's yogurt. If there isn't...
I love frozen yogurt.
Yeah, if there isn't, we will kidnap him. So... Wait, what time is it? 1 minute 32. As your prediction might be wrong, as Yusjin is already getting ganked. This is your game to show up, and he's already having to force the flash. That is a flashless Tristana. 3 minutes into the game, and once again it is Yusjin. I mean, he does have a crazy CS lead, but that AD carry, a marksman without a flash. Yes, you have a jump. There is actually another fight in the bot lane. Butner getting taken down to below half HP, but Fabian is being brought even lower. So, that 4 minute 32 first blood could still be on the cards, as a lot of
there's a lot of sums been burnt already. So
yeah. A lot of sums being burnt already. There is a Tristana without a flash pushing down the mid lane. And actually, Klumix going in for a trade. Yusjin seems to be playing this lane out a lot better than the last game.
Maybe it's down to comfort. How often does he play Surfing? Sure, it is a pretty easy champion to play. But when you don't know the matchups, when you're not that comfortable on the champion, you don't really know how much damage you output, it can make it hard, as we might see a dive being set up here. Yeah, we see a dive being set up here. Robbery kind of whiffs on
Bandage toss, and that's going to bring him under the turret. You didn't get your prediction right. We're going to kidnap you as first blood goes over to Yushin on the Tristana, but a kill answered back by Robbery.
Yeah, and Yusujin living here, it basically forces out the TP from Gloomix. I don't know if he would have TP'd otherwise. It's a cannon wave. I think he could have maybe kept it if Tristana wasn't in lane pushing it out. So TP gets used. I think Yusujin's not gonna have to use the TP. Silas is probably not gonna push the wave that fast. So Tristana will be able to walk the lane here without TPing. Picks up a Noon Quiver as well, so that's even more push in the lane of Tristana, which means prio. So I would expect Wacky Wraiths to be contesting this first dragon.
Yeah, Wacky Wraiths in a fantastic position, and we said a lot of focus on Yushin to make sure that he gets ahead in the early game and pushes his lead, pushes the good matchup, and he's already doing that here. 34 CS to 18, and we spoke about elo difference. We spoke about solo queue being a completely different ballgame to competitive. But one thing that is a constant between the two factors is certain things like understanding and adaptability of matchups. Because I've already seen one thing that is a massive flaw from Gloomix here in this first game, is that going the Doran's ring into a Tristana is very... It's not disrespectful, but it's definitely the kind of thing where you're thinking, I'm going to kill you on repeat, but you have to respect the early game damage of the Tristana. This was 100% a second win and Doran's ring, Doran's shield set up from the Silas, and not going that has led to this lane dominance from Yushin, as he's already roamed down to the bot lane. Summoner spells are up, and I think no fight here as Dragon gets secured.
Dragon gets secured. Herald will be spawning in the next few minutes as well, so I think we will be seeing more focus now around the top side. Both teams prioritize objectives. We saw it in game 1, we saw it in game 2 with the 5-minute dragon, we saw it in game 3 again with the 5-minute dragon falling down. So both teams like doing these objectives and just playing around them, and it's just a safe bet, right? Objectives, they're gonna scale you, they're gonna get you to late game. Scorpion's hook misses.
Yeah. Well, hit a minion.
Well, yeah, obviously, but was he aiming for it? Probably was, actually.
Of course he was.
Yeah, of course he was.
He's farming. Yeah,
he's helping blame.
It was a
also, wait, this time we're seeing MF going first strike, so we're gonna be seeing the lethality build.
Oh, the lethality MF, yeah.
Different from last time. I think overall the power of lethality MF, I think right now in the meta is a bit stronger than the normal ADC build with PTA. So I'm interested to see how it's gonna pilot, because the champion does play different with this build.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you can provide more information on this, but I can imagine that if this bullet time does get layered onto the Gnar ultimate, then it's gonna be extremely lethal. But I'm gonna have to stop your explanation there, as there is a fight in the bot lane. Yushin pumping out crazy damage, but here comes Gloomix. He does have the Curse of the Sad Mummy, and that's gonna be put on top of Robbery, brought down to low HP. That's a double kill for Gloomix, and once again putting in an MVP performance, joining the team fight late on the flank. 4 kills going over to Black Lotus, and Wacky Wraiths once again falling behind in the early game.
Oh, how do you say that in English? I know. Phenomenal performance. Phenomenal move from Gloomix right there. He is the game changer for Black Lotus here. Making plays game 2, making plays game 1, and being where he needs to be every single time for every single fight.
Yeah. Every single fight, he rocks up and makes a massive difference. And bear in mind, this is with a 20 CS deficit. He's behind on his lane opponent, but being more impactful. And I think just off the back of that team fight, once again, we're seeing Gloomix put in a fantastic performance. And going into the next objective, Wacky Wraiths, they're going to be approaching that outer gold deficit. As What? I'm gonna have to stop you, as Robbery is going to fight Oxyconey. The Curse of the Sad Mummy gets dropped off, but Oxyconey is gonna do an efficient flash away. Yushin still lurking around, but take a look at the minimap. There is some movement from Gloomix, and that right now, Wacky Wraiths, you do have to respect that player right now. But instead, with Oxyconey being brought to low HP, it will just be the Herald secured for Wacky Wraiths.
Yeah, and I was expecting Black Lotus to maybe contest this Herald. They just had such a good fight on bot lane. Silas ult is back up. But obviously, Oxyconey getting caught out there, needing to burn flash, just means that they are not going to contest the Herald. And I like to see this. Remember game 1, that fight? using a bit of poke. But game 1, we saw that fight on Baron where Oxyconey got caught and Black Lotus still contested Baron, and that basically led them to kind of lose the game.
Oh, and there's actually going to be a trade of ultimates in the bot lane, and Amari brought to low HP, but there's a solo kill missing. Link takes down Karuga in the top lane, and what did we say about giving the enemy team their main champion? Missing Link gets the solo kill and gets away. Robbery doesn't land 2 of the bandage tosses as the Herald gets dropped, and it's another solo kill for a Black Lotus solo laner. Do not give Black Lotus solo laners their main champs.
We've seen it game 2 with Akali. We've seen it. And we see Sejuani engagement. What's happening?
Yeah, and there's a catch up to Butner. Uses the Feather Storm to maximum efficiency, but that's just about it. He has to use both the flash and the ultimate. And look at Black Lotus. They are playing extremely well.
I'm glad I have you with me because I am losing it. I can't talk anymore. This has been so much stuff happening ever since that 4-minute mark, since we got the first kill. There's been Dragon, there's been Herald, there's been a fight. Blue might be getting caught out here.
Yeah, there's a hook onto Amari, doesn't have the encore, and I think that was a protective hook to make sure Blue is able to get away.
And that was a good hook from Fabian, who will be getting cancelled here, so his tempo will be a bit off. We have Dragon spawning in the next 12 seconds, which most likely means that Wacky Wraiths will pick it up, but also Butner is recalling no mana and half HP on him, so we will be getting the resets on both bot sides, blue and red.
Yeah, blue and red indeed. Yushin, great buffer of the W, able to get away, and I think we talked about not giving the enemy team their main champions. Look at the top lane CS. That's crazy. But yeah, Karuga saying, lane doomed, let's go roam for the team as they secure themselves the dragon. Oxyconey does come in for the steal, but is going to be able to queue away as he doesn't secure that. So, Wacky Wraiths, you're losing out on the fights and your lanes are getting diffed, but you do have the objectives in your hand. So, and I think that will be the focus for the Wacky Wraiths.
Sorry, I spaced out.
That's fine.
You know, the game slowed down now, and as we see,
Wait a minute, Yushin and Gloomix once again fighting it out, and look at the confidence of this. Gloomix is not afraid of Yushin, and he's telling himself, I am better than you. I don't care what the matchup is. I will fight you, as there is a fight in the bot lane. Blue and Fabian layering their ultimates on top of each other. Amari brought to low HP. Butner doesn't have the flash, but does have the ultimate, so can play safe here. Using the Curse of the Sad Mummy, landing onto both Blue and Fabian as Robbery. Once again, the saving grace for the Wacky Wraiths sets up 2 kills for their bot lane. Missing Link brought to low HP as Oxyconey's trying to make something happen in the top lane, but he's going to get away with his life as Missing Link jumps off, and Wacky Wraiths now answering back with some fights of their own.
Yeah, and I want to say that was a beautiful ult from Robbery. Hitting both Fabian and Blue on the edge of the ult was just something very nice. As we see another trade from Glimmix here on mid with that Everfrost going in.
Trade indeed. Yushin brought to low HP, and he stopped, cancels the W, and the Glacial Prison lands. Oxyconey gets the kill onto Yushin, and once again, even in the worst matchup, Gloomix is winning out the trades, the 1v1s. Yushin was brought to low HP, and Oxyconey comes in to finish off the job. And what a performance we're seeing from the Black Lotus mid laner.
Yeah, and Gloomix knowing the limits of the Silas so well, knowing when his W is going to be up, knowing how much he can push it before he uses that heal. A lot of players just go in, trade with the Silas, but then don't expect the heal on low HP. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he gets healed, the lower he is, the more heal he gets, right?
That potentially could be a thing, but I mean,
doesn't matter, but regardless, playing the limits.
Yeah,
playing to the limit.
Playing the limits indeed, and actually, you know, funny you mentioned that. A lot of Silas's run the rune. What's it called? What's the rune? No, it's in the yellow tree, bottom right.
Last stand.
Last stand, yes. A lot of Silas played bottom right. Oh my god.
It's bottom left though.
No, 100% bottom right. I will put money on it.
I'll go check.
Chat. Check up on this, bottom right, okay? Anyway, once again, Yushin getting caught out. Gloomix uses his own ultimate. Get a taste of your own medicine, as that will be another kill. Yushin again dying so many times in this game. Karuga in a bit of a duel with Missing Link. Missing Link will win out on that one, but too close to the turret, so we'll jump away. But yes, again, Plumix, what? He's silver. He's silver elo. Just let that sink in for a minute because he is playing so well.
And again, he's looking for this trade on robbery. He doesn't really have an ult up right now. You know, I'm expecting this next dragon fight in a minute 40. This is where we're gonna see the real team fight happening. We might see TP from Nar. Obviously, Unleashed TP is up now. Got changed a few patches ago. It's at 10 minutes now. It would be up even at 14 now. But I think this will be the fight where we might see a 5v4, even a 5v5. If it's not a 5v5, Gwen's gonna be getting that top tower. So again, Black Lotus is in the same situation as they were in Game 1, where Wacky Wraiths, playing on red side, has 2 dragons, and they are looking to contest third dragon. If you remember Game 1, they got this third dragon, but back then in Game 1, they were behind at this point. Now they're ahead by 4k. They've got a Fed member top. They've got a Fed member in the jungle, and most importantly, they've got their playmaker, their star player, Fed on mid lane as well. On his Sylas, one of his most played champs, not as a Kali, but showing that he has so much prowess on this champion. Knows the limits of Sylas, knows when to go low, knows when to go high, knows when to heal, knows how to fight. Oh, this beautiful to watch.
Beautiful to watch indeed. It is so nice to see, and I think, you know, one of the most standout things. Oh, actually, I'm gonna have to stop myself as there is a team fight. But once again, look who's arrived. Klubik landing a 2-man Curse of the Sad Mummy with Robbery's ultimate. Gets the kill onto Butner. That's the star 80 carry down, and he picks off the Amumu on the side. Yushin, all you can do is split push. But here comes Oxykoni pushing that off. And once again, it's Gloomix taking the ultimate of Robbery, pushing onto the Diamond 1 superstar of the Wacky Wraiths and making the impactful play.
And the thing is, it's 15 minutes in game. Even if Tristana gets mid tower, does damage on it. There's no plates. There's no gold to gain. You know, if you're making these plates at 10 minutes, at 9 minutes, you're making plays on the other side of the map, and the laners are trading for plates, you're still getting some gold back. But now, Wacky Wraiths got nothing out of the plates. No plates. Sure, they got some mid damage, but no gold. 1 plate's 175.
Yeah.
100 damage now, 0.
No gold indeed, and
I remember my mom always said, no money, no funny.
no money, no funny indeed. And what isn't funny for the Wacky Wraiths is how far behind in the game. Yes, you did secure those first early dragons, but now you're losing out. With the Black Lotus members being so strong, they're going to get control of these objectives now. So the first Infernal Dragon will go over to the Black Lotus, and Wacky Wraiths, they need to hang on. And I think one concerning thing here is you've counterpicked this Sylas with a Tristana. You were ahead 20-30 CS in the early game, and now you're up against a 4-1 Sylas, 2.5 items completed in the inventory, and he's a silver elo player. This should not be happening.
Yeah, and obviously we said also Nar is a counter pick. They self-counter pick themselves into with the Gwen into the Nar, and Nar is ahead, and the one counter pick, the one thing they were playing for, is behind. The Tristana, as you said, is behind. Sure, they pick up the mid tower here. They pick up the objective bounty, but that's their first tower. They didn't get first tower with a team comp as strong as Gwen and Tristana. And we see Tristana gets poked out of lane here, needs to back.
Yeah, I think there's a really concerning thing is a lot of the times the camera pans over to the mid lane, and this Tristana is just like in lethal range of dying. So
And that hook was close.
Hook was close as it does seem like there is a potential tussle going on here in the mid lane, but it won't add up to anything, as now we're seeing the transition of the mid game where you will send your Misfortune and Nautilus into the mid lane with the help of your jungler, and here comes the side laners. And right now, if I'm talking about side lane, you have to favor the Sylas and the Nar up against the Tristana and the Gwen.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, Nar has that wits end as well. He's gonna help him in a lane into an AP heavy champion like Gwen, taking less damage. And obviously, Nar, a champion, especially in mini form, benefits from the attack speed, proccing his W more and more. So, oh, and he's moving here into the jungle. His Fury is almost stacked up as well. So we might be seeing a fight here in mid, even a possible dive.
Yeah, Banger Nar has come out here, but Robbery, he's not gonna lose anything. Does secure himself the red buff as well. So not much fighting happening, and I think, yeah, Black Lotus, they will just look to set up this 1-3-1 situation, and I think it's a perfect thing to do. The Gwen is miles behind the Nar. The Sylas has 4 kills to 1, and Yeah, really strong, and that's not even mentioning the fact that Blue on this Misfortune hasn't even entered the game yet, hasn't really provided much. As speaking of Blue, does get caught out, but Fabian providing fantastic protection for his AD carry, and here comes Oxykoni with the Sejuani, but Robbery landing a lovely cuss of the Sad Mummy, but it's only on the tanks. Fabian is going to be the first to fall. Down goes Blue on the Misfortune. Eustian jumps in on the backside. Gloomix has teleported into the fight, takes the cuss of the Sad Mummy, so that's going to deter this side of the Wacky Wraiths for the meantime. But at the end of the day, it is a team fight win for the Wacky Wraiths.
Yeah, and as I said earlier in the game, Gloomix getting engaged on here.
Yeah, Gloomix is going in. The confidence of the world takes down Butner on the Xayah. Here comes the Glacial Prison. He gets the W off to heal back. Double kill for the mid lane of the Black Lotus. And here comes Robbery fighting a 1v1 against Oxykoni. This is going into the favor of the Sejuani for now. The Herald has been spawned. Robbery will get away with his life. Does land the bandage shot to try stop the Herald charge. It's going to go through. These two junglers are still duking it out. And Oxykoni will look to push this wave. And you can see the supply of the bot lane is coming in now. As we see Blue and Fabian is approaching. Oxykoni will be brought to 1 HP. Does get taken down. It's a shutdown for Robbery. But on the backside, it's a solo kill for Missing Link.
And I mean, again, talking about how Gloomix plays on these low HP and knows the limits so well, goes into a fight that overall didn't look favorable. And Oxykoni coming in with that frozen Glacial Prison. Glacial Prison? That's it. That's the one. And correct me if I'm wrong. But anyways, coming in with that ult saving him and making sure that first of all, the shutdown went to Amumu, and second of all, Yusejin died again.
Yeah, Yusejin once again, he's having a really rough series. And I think the worst part about this is I remember being on the analyst desk for that last game, and we were saying this has to be a redemption split for him, because last split he was averaging 10, 12, 11, 9 deaths a game. And then he goes into the show match with Yin. The first two games looked rough. The last game, he put in a powerful performance. But once again, we're back with this Yusejin sort of, I don't want to use the word inting show, but it's kind of like we are just seeing him die carelessly on repeat. The same sort of mistakes happening over and over again. But yeah, I think nonetheless, Wacky Wraiths, they're not out of this game. They're not out of this game just yet. The thing saving them is these engages coming from Robbery. He is performing extremely well. But what is holding them back for now is kind of the solo lanes.
Yeah, definitely, as Soul is holding them back. Black Lotus picking up their second Infernal Dragon here. Remember back in the day, this like 2018, stacking Infernal Drakes was so good. Black Lotus might be on if this game continues. On to 4 Infernal Drakes.
Yeah, definitely. And what do you think Wacky Wraiths need to do to get back in?
What's the one Christmas song, like Praying for a Miracle? Is that even a Christmas song?
Wait, what? Praying for a miracle?
Wait, am I... oh, Baron's being started up here. We're gonna talk about Christmas songs on Christmas. As Baron's already down to half HP. Gloomix picks up the Seraphine ult here.
Yeah, Gloomix with another key ultimate, and that's gonna land onto 2 key members. Karuga, you are brought down to 1 HP. Gloomix on a 1 versus 4, but being brought low. He's actually gonna fall. Missing Link with a 3-man Gnar ultimate, and this fight is back and forth. Robbery is in the midst of everything, but he's gonna drop down. 3 members of Wacky Wraiths are left to flee with low HP. Black Lotus win another team fight.
Yeah, and I want to point out, the thing with Lethality Misfortune is when you don't have your ult up, you are much, like, less strong than the normal ADC Misfortune. Taking fights like this now is risky. You have overall lower DPS because you don't have that attack speed. You don't have that much crit. So, it is risky, but we see Black Lotus starting Baron here again. Obviously, you have Sejuani, who does a lot of damage. If Nautilus helps here, helps stack up that Sejuani E, there's going to be a lot of damage onto this Baron. Misfortune still here as well, and Yusejin didn't get the reset off. He had TP, but he opted not to do it, so he's here on a 3rd of HP.
Didn't get the TP. Missing Link on his Gnar, lands another 2-man Gnar ultimate, and down goes the members of the Wacky Wraiths as Baron gets secured, and onto the mid lane they go. Black Lotus well in control of this game.
Yeah, and the first round on the Baron fight, it looked favorable for Wacky Wraiths. They got them off of Baron, and I thought, okay, they're gonna reset, they're gonna come back here, and they're gonna contest it. But they opted not to do it. They got mid prio, and then they went back into there. But they were low HP, low bars, no cooldowns, no Xayah ult, nothing. They couldn't really contest it. And obviously, they just died. They just died at the Baron. Black Lotus picks up Baron on all 5 members because Gloomyx respawned by the time they did Baron. So they have pressure on both side laners now, on every single champion in their team. And we see Gloomyx here, supported by Fabian in the jungle, hovering him, putting damage onto that tier 2 tower on bot lane.
Yeah, it's looking like an absolute fight. A strong statement fight coming out from Black Lotus. And I think a lot of people coming in, they have been saying Wacky Wraiths is a very good roster, but looking at this game, Black Lotus putting in a fight as there is a chase. There's actually already a first kill going down onto Amari as Gloomyx once again getting the better of his opposite number. Down goes Yusjin and Karuga is left to run. Gloomyx lands another chain double kill for the mid laner of Black Lotus. Curse of the Sad Mummy buying some time, but Robbery, you are left on your own. Fabian is going to be able to get away with his life using the blast cone to get up. Another Everfrost landing. Robbery, you are on the run, and a chain is going to run once again. What a performance from this star mid laner. He is silver elo, but putting in a performance of one of the higher elo players of the SLE. 9-3 from Gloomyx once again.
And Black Lotus absolutely demolishing and dismantling Wacky Wraiths here in game 3, pushing on top, having a 2v3 fight on bot side as well and just winning it out. And Oxyconey coming in and clutch again there with a Glacial Prison, making sure that his support doesn't die.
Yeah, his support gets away with his life, and I think the big theme of the day is when there's plays happening around Gloomyx, Black Lotus just win. He is doing so much work, and I think that last chain that landed onto Robbery speaks volumes to this player's performance this series. That chain was the kind of chain that makes a crowd go, oh my god, it makes a crowd react. And are we starting to see a player that builds hype and plays these crazy mechanical champions and makes these incredible plays?
I mean, I sure do hope so, because we don't have a 0 TP in the league anymore, and it would be nice to have it would be nice to have a player that's so hypey as Gloomyx, apparently.
Yeah, so hyped indeed. And I think like Black Lotus are really blowing me away right now with this performance. I think every single member of this team has stepped up this game. And speaking of Gloomyx, look at the impact he has. He just walks for farm, and Yushin is on the flee. He runs away with his, with the fear of the world. And yeah, what a performance from Black Lotus. And I think we have to really commend not just the team play, but individual performance, as a Glacial Prison does go wide. Butner is trying to kite Oxyconey, but here comes Gloomyx. The Encore is going to land onto him, so he's going to get taken down to low HP. The Curse of the Sad Mummy isn't quite good, but Missing Link is in the...
Oh, what a flash!
That's a fantastic flash. Gloomyx is going to be able to get up. Look at the non-ultimate onto 3. That's going to end the fight. And Missing Link shows up big time, showing why he is the best Gnar player on this team. You leave this champion open, and he will punish you. As that's a full-on sweep teamfight win for Black Lotus, and that's the game. That's the series.
What a performance from Black Lotus, especially after game 1, losing game 1 like that. And they were like, no, this is not it. We need to change our approach to this series. They changed it for game 2. It works game 2. They keep it for game 3. And it gets them the series win in this show match. And what a performance from all the players in their team. But especially, what a performance from my newfound love, Gloomyx on mid lane.
Yeah, I kind of have a hard on for Gloomyx. I never thought I'd ever get stiff from League of Legends gameplay. But this new mid laner, he's starting to make me feel a certain way. I used to be a self-obsessed mid laner, where you know when you watch montages, right? And you're like, oh no, you type in Chovy, you type in Faker. I'm gonna be typing in Gloomyx, because wow, what a game from him. But I kind of want to touch on a bit of a player that throughout the series performed decently, but in that last game really showed why he is talked about a lot, and it's Missing Link on that Gnar. It was banned away from him in the first 2 games. He is a Gnar main. You open that op.gg, you open his account, and you say, this guy plays Gnar. Don't give him Gnar. He was given the Gnar, and there were so many team fight winning ultimates there, and even in that last one, landing 3 to win the fight for his team. And Black Lotus, they are on high alert. They are on everyone's list. Start paying attention, guys, because this is a strong team.
Yeah, and obviously, as you said, give him the Gnar, but even giving him the Ornn, maybe all of just wasn't for him, wasn't for what this team wants to play. Because you saw that once they changed how the top laner plays the game, it was like looking at a completely different team. It was just something else entirely.
And I think what the beauty of this Black Lotus performance is, if I go through every name on their list, I'm talking about Missing Link, I'm talking about Oxyconey, Gloomix, we've already said, we've sung his praises, Blue and Fabian in the bot lane, every single member of this squad throughout this series has performed to a degree that surpasses our expectations of them. But
yeah, and honestly,
yeah, so I think if you're Black Lotus here, hats off to you guys, because, yeah, again, amazing performance from them.
Yeah, and I have to give a shout out to Blue and Fabian. Obviously, the two players that, in such a bot lane heavy meta right now as it is, you expect bot laners, the AD carries, to be the flashy players, the ones making a lot of plays in team fights. Blue and Fabian went pretty much under the radar. Yes, we had those MF ults, but they stayed consistent. They didn't lose lane, they didn't lose gold, they didn't fall behind, even when they weren't being played around. And they were there for the fights. They were a stable rock, a stable foundation for their team to be able to make those plays on the map. So I think a big shout out to the bot lane of Black Lotus as well for playing as consistently as they did.
Yeah, big shout out to that. And I've been on many teams where it's like the value of a bot lane that can hold their own and not just throw the game because they want to be the main character is super, super high. I can't mention how valuable it is to have a bot lane like that. And I think to be perfectly honest, it's like, I think sometimes when it comes to metrics of measuring players and how good they are in comparison to the rest of the league, you have to take into account that consistency and that reliability. I think that's the key word here. And when we look at Blue and Fabian in our bot lane, there wasn't a single moment where I was concerned that they were going to throw the game away. They were consistent, they were reliable. At every point in the game, they were doing exactly what they needed to do, nothing more and nothing less. And I think, this goes for every single member of this Black Lotus roster on throughout this series. And I think, of course, they didn't 3-0 the Wacky Wraiths. It wasn't a stomp. But if you look at the wins in their games, they were commanding, they were confident, they were definitely outplaying their opponents in most aspects of the game.
Yeah.
And if you're Black Lotus, the split starts in 2 days. You have to be going into it with full confidence after this game.
Yeah, and on the other side, Wacky Wraiths, coming out of the Gucci Yin series, getting 3-0'd. And today, again, winning game 1, probably were a bit, into it. Like, yeah, sure, we got this, it's gonna be good. But then getting swept by Black Lotus for 2 games, I really hope it doesn't affect their moral going into the split starting just in a few days now.
Yeah, I think Wacky Wraiths, you kind of just have to look at it and be like, listen, I think a lot of the issues from this series by the Wacky Wraiths came from individual play. Their team play is still astounding. Their team play, we saw in the first game, it's still up there with the top of the SLE. And if they can just get to that phase of the game without being too far behind on an individual basis, I think the Wacky Wraiths will be a strong contender for the SLE. But it's literally just all about kinking out those rough edges and making sure that the lanes don't fall too far behind, don't counterpick yourself in drop. And I think for Wacky Wraiths, I've been saying this for a while, including last split, you need to control that mid lane. That mid lane right now is such an issue for Wacky Wraiths because it's not necessarily we talk about reliability, right? Wacky Wraiths, when mid lane loses, it's not, you're 20 CS down and maybe you've died once. It's the enemy mid is just 1v9ing. You've died 8-9 times in the game, and I think as when they can get that under control, because I know Yusjin is a fantastic player. We saw that in game 3 of Wacky Wraiths against Gucci. If they can get that aspect under control, then I think Wacky Wraiths will be going into the SLE as a strong team. But for now, that is the show match is done, I believe, for the SLE before the split
Good.
starts.
Yeah, I think that's it.
And what an exciting situation we have on our hands, guys. We have a podcast that will be hosted later today. And this is
In
going
an
to be
hour.
in an hour. The podcast will be hosted in 1 hour's time. Make sure to grab your snacks, and you know what snacks I'm talking about. I'm talking about your Yomi's yogurts. I'm talking about your Flay's fettuccinis. I'm talking about your Savage's sandwiches, and make sure to be healthy. Take a drink.
Yeah, but also, you know,
Yep.
the podcast for everyone that doesn't know, what their plan is to do is all the teams are going to be presented, talk about every team a bit, you know, so people get a feel of what's going on. The schedule is going to get presented, explain how the format works. The most important part for a lot of players, the matches of the first week are going to get drawn on the podcast as well. So, you know, make sure to tune in, and any other questions that you're going to have, you know, feel free to ask it on the podcast. So make sure you tune into that.
Yeah, tune into that, guys. We'll find out the first round of games, as Sanix just said. But for now, the show matches are over. I hope everyone is just as excited as I am for the SLE start. Good luck to all, and good luck to the teams that are being drawn today. Do take a quick break, but come back for that draw show. So thank you all for watching. Congratulations to Black Lotus for winning the series, and we will see you soon.
Thank you, Yomi, for the yogurt.
Thanks, Yomi, for the yogurt. We will see you soon, guys. Thank you very much.
See ya.